Hey, good morning, everybody. Morning, Andy, GWC, Ron, Paul, Jen, Morgan, all you cool kids. Nice to have you in here today. Hey, Erla. Good stuff going on already today, guys. I posted up in the room earlier, and I just want to say it again as we get into the day. It's the questions that you guys post. It's the charts that you guys post that really make this class amazing, in my opinion. I can talk about patterns all day long, right? I can talk about entries and exits. But if I don't see how you guys are using the lessons, um, then it's just me talking, right? So thank you, seriously, sincerely, for the conversation, for the ability to see what you're doing and help if it needs help. So um, just wanted to say that. I'm feeling all touchy-feely this morning. Let's check news, guys. We are going to go to forexfactory.com/calendar. Can everybody hear me okay? Just want to make sure. Okay. It still throws me off. I'm not using headphones anymore because that web camera that I had to buy has a microphone on it, and it's kind of cool. You guys have no idea the other day when the webcam was on. Guys, I talk with my hands all day long, and I was practically sitting on my hands for this classroom. I tried so hard to not move around. This is much easier when I know you can't see me. I also have a 7-iron in here. I'll practice my swing while I'm talking sometimes. Morning, Zorro. So, guys, we're going to news, right? Today is Thursday, May 23rd. There was some high-impact news at 8:30, unemployment claims. Ron accurately described it as a dud. It didn't do a whole lot in the market. But the thing is, it could have. And if we go back to the very basic concept that everything we do revolves around advantages, if you know that there is an exact point in time where some Yahoo with millions of dollars might make the market go crazy, then that's a huge advantage for not stepping in front of that freight train of emotion. So at 9:45, we have it coming again, guys. We have flash manufacturing, two high impact, followed up by one at 10. Guys, 9:45 to 10 a.m. is a great time to go toast a bagel or something. Anything other than hopping in front of this news. Of course, I don't tell you guys what to do. So if you make the choice to hop in front of that news, well, then that's on you and the repercussions. Can I share an embarrassing story right off the bat? Um, Yesterday at 2 p.m., guys, there was the FOMC meeting minutes, which means that at 2 p.m. the market had the potential to go absolutely bonkers. Guess who was in a position at 159? This guy. Good morning, Kenan. I forgot to write a note on a piece of paper. I forgot to set an alarm. And guys, I traded right into the FOMC minutes, and I was slipped to the tune of $1,400. It wiped out my entire day in about 2 seconds. So I was in the perfect trade. I mean, it was beautiful. This happens. It does. It happens, guys. It's going to happen to everybody at least once, probably. Um, and I've done it more than once, embarrassingly so. But it's one of those things. What a huge advantage knowing when this could happen, and then you've got to do the due diligence of not trading into it. Hey, good morning, Jeffrey Dean. Nice to see you in here today. So guys, knowing when news is, it's a huge advantage. And Rob, it was just comical. All I could do is laugh. I was having a great day, guys. I was up about 1,500 on a 2 lot. Just smooth, easy trading all day long, and it was gone in a blink of an eye. And I was like, well, let's start over. Um, and that's all you can do sometimes. So. I do that every day. That's a part of my routine. Clearly, I need to get better at it, but it's a huge advantage knowing when that stuff is. Guys, everything that I talk about, we're going to the nexgent3.com website. This is an outstanding site, and it's just getting better. We're doing so much work for you guys right now. It's a lot of fun. But there's two sections. The first is a software guide that I want to talk about. And this is where if you have questions about NinjaTrader, if you're curious about stops and targets, if you're wondering about scaling, opening, closing workspaces, building charts, all the very basic mechanical things. Yeah, Rob, it did. It did. Um, I sent a message. There's one of the members of this classroom that did the same thing a month ago, and we were laughing about it. And I sent a message like, "Where were you today with my warning? Come on." Totally on me. It was my fault. You can't get mad about it. Doesn't do any good. Ninja Trader how-tos, guys. This is all the mechanics. I always encourage you new folks, if you're brand new with Ninja Trader, learn how to scale your charts. Learn how to put things back the way they go. I'm just going to get rid of that. I don't need that yet. Whoops. Hold on. Because when you have your charts up, guys, your most current bar is always highlighted in black. This is how I know that I'm on the most current price. If you ever don't see that bar, look for the arrow up top, because I get messages sometimes, Mark, my chart stopped printing. My software just died. Well, it just means that you bumped it a little bit. So use that arrow to get it back. And the second thing is, if you wake up in the morning, and man, we used to do this. I would wake up in the morning and my charts look like this, and I was like, oh, where is price? And I would squeeze it and drop it and squeeze it and drop it, and I would hunt for price when all you have to do is click the F and go bonk, and now you're right back. So if you ever don't see the most current price, look for the arrow and the F, and if you click both of them, you should be good as gold. So I wanted to share that lesson with you. And then the second page that I want to look at is the trading guide. This is everything that I talk about, every rule, every look, everything that I can think of comes from this site, from this page, guys. This is where all your rules are broken down individually with pictures talking about advantages. This is where management ideas come in. This is where the trade tracking sheet, how to use market replay, additional entry, I mean, everything that you need to be successful is right here. But the most important part, in my humble opinion, from doing this for a little while, the most important thing that you can do for yourself as a brand new user is understand the concepts of the high probability trend trade. Understand the three simple rules of this trade, where each indicator on every chart agrees for the trade, where all the triggers are the strongest, where there's nothing between you and your target, guys, no termination conditions, because when you understand the high probability trend trade, it's going to open the door to medium probability trend trades, because high probability trend trades, guys, they turn you into a chart reader. And chart reading is pivotal. Chart reading is 90% of your day. 90% of the day, you're watching and waiting. That was my morning this morning. I didn't take one trade this morning. And if you're not watching and waiting, if you're constantly in the market, you might be over trading, but maybe not. Maybe it's just flowing. The actual trading that we do is about 10% of your day, guys. So if you spend 10 hours in front of your computer every day, you're going to be active for about an hour. One of the reasons I think breaks are so important, to stand up and stretch if you're able, do something, breathe some fresh air. But once you're a chart reader, once you get this skill where you can look at your indicators and understand what they're telling you, you're going to understand where the market is likely to continue. You're going to understand where the market is likely to go and where the market is likely to stop. And from this awareness, you're going to understand whether or not your rules are met, whether or not you should be looking for that high probability trend trade. So embrace the high probability trend trade initially, guys. Make this your mission in life to get great at understanding these three rules. And it's only three rules. Each rule provides an advantage. Excuse me. On your large chart, strong triggers is going to give you the advantage of momentum, guys. Momentum is outstanding. Momentum pushes a market, it breaks areas, it covers mistakes. Momentum is probably the cornerstone of every trading plan that I've ever seen. And then next, you have to make sure you're not trading into areas, those likely to stop areas. Because if you are, well, you're trading into trouble. Cussing and picking. But if you're not trading in determination conditions, guys, you're going to have room to your profit targets. You're going to have the ability to get to where you're going to get paid. And that's the clear path that we talk about, the advantage of a clear path. And then finally, an entry. For the high probability trend trade, your entry is defined. It's precise. It's pretty outstanding just how close to the pivot point you're going to get with this methodology. But once you understand momentum and a clear path, you're going to start seeing an awful lot of entry areas. You're going to see momentum trades, and you're going to see these jump-in trades that people do, and you're going to see all these different trades, high probability, medium probability. But your ability to catch these trades, to see these trades, to recognize these trades are all going to stem from what you learn in the high probability trend trade. So these three rules happen on only two charts. This is my favorite thing about it. I see people complicate things all the time. All the time. People are like, I need an extra chart. I need more indicators. I need 3 different time frames. I need 5 different time frames. And what happens is you're like one of those people in the money fan things, the boxes where the dollar bills go. You're so focused on all of the bills that you don't catch any of the bills. Trading is a lot like that, guys. So we're going to keep it simple. We're going to use a large chart and a small chart. Reflections of 2 different mentalities in the market. The large chart is going to define the direction. If the background is, good morning, Jonathan. If the background is green on your large chart, the market's going up. The easiest thing you can do is go up with it. If the background is red on the large chart, the market's going down, and the path of least resistance is down with the large chart. It's also going to define the momentum. That's rule number 1. And it's going to define the areas. It's going to let you know what areas may be problematic and what areas are in the rear view mirror and what areas are off in the distance to use for targets. And that's rule number 2, defining that clear path. So 66% of the good stuff, guys, comes in on the large chart. 2/3 of your rules are met on the large chart. And then once they're met, once those rules are met, you're going to go to a smaller, faster chart. This one small chart is going to take that most current bar, and it's going to give you an x-ray. It's going to show you the 15 to 30 bars worth of movement inside of it. This is going to allow you to refine that broad stroke of a brush and to pinpoint with amazing accuracy where the market is most likely to continue, guys. This is your best of the best spot for entry, and this is the spot that's going to allow you to increase your profit potential. It's going to let you reduce your risk, and that's rule number 3. It's designed to put you in at that spot. But you have to avoid the temptation of wanting to be super trader day 1, right? Become super chart reader, and super trader will follow. And the easiest way to get to where you want to be, to becoming a confident trader, it begins with posting your trades in the class. Take a picture, drop it in the room. Take a picture, annotate it. That's the key part. Is every time you take a picture, I want you to tell me why. I want you to pretend that I'm standing there looking at you saying, so what? Hey, Mark, here's my long trade. So what? Why? Why did you do it? What made you feel like that was the right trade? Were your rules met? Did you have a gut feeling? Were you just hoping that thing would work? So when you annotate your charts, guys, talk about those advantages. Talk about the momentum. Talk about the areas. Talk about your entries. Talk about your exits. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a private session. I'm literally going to click on your chart and open it up in front of the room. And I'm going to go, okay, Jonathan said at about 8:30 there's a possible short trade, strong triggers, 3 convergences, path not totally clear due to the mid-band and support. Do the magenta lines make it a termination above? If so, strong top. And then Jonathan's talking about looking for an entry somewhere in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the parts. Well, being a little more specific, entry at the 1-to-1s for a short trade would be directly into one of those likely to stop areas. 3 divergences in the same price range can knock out a trend. And what you're going to notice is the conversation that we have is going to revolve around not having momentum. It's going to revolve around the path not being clear yet, but more than anything, we're looking for that best of the best entry. And while it's fun to be the first one in, this represents the absolute perfect trade, the easiest to catch trade. And this is gold, guys, and gold is a very temperamental woman. And it's ugly and it's sketchy on this small chart. And then Jonathan, do you see down here where everything lines up easy, where the momentum, the clear path, and the pullback to areas inside of triggers? Guys, this is the easiest money that you'll ever make as a day trader with Nexgen. This is the best of the best trade right here. And we'll go through and re-annotate. And what it means is that you've got to resist the temptation to simply jump in the market when the market isn't giving you what it needs. And we'll go back and talk about that chart again. Good morning. But what I'm telling you guys is every time you post in the room, you're going to get that personal attention. We're going to talk about it. We're going to look at it. We're going to analyze it. And we're going to look for better opportunities if they're there. That was funny. 20 bucks says that was wrong. No, Morgan, good one. Guys, the second thing is use the spreadsheet that I give you every day. When you downloaded your demo, your software, there was a spreadsheet that was put into your Nexgen Study Picks folder. It's just a big Excel. And I'm going to open up mine real quick. And there's 4 tabs on it. And I want to talk about these 4 tabs and what they're going to do for you. The first tab, well, actually, we're working backwards today. So the final tab is the client trades. And guys, this is where I've put in some work for you. Under the client trades, I'm going to give you a very mechanical, high probability trend trade entry sequence for both long and short so that you can go back and study it. It's broken down into the individual thought processes that create the trade. There's about 300 plus pictures of high probability trend trades, of some medium probability trades. Repetition through recognition, guys. Looking at a trade when you don't have the adrenaline, the anxiety, the nerves of hoping that you win or lose is the easiest way to recognize these patterns so that when the market is live, you're like, oh man, I've seen this 100 times. I know exactly what I'm looking for. There is a section for the NASDAQ. I will never tell you guys what market to trade, ever. But I will tell you that if you don't know exactly what you're looking for in a matter of seconds, the NASDAQ will chew you up and spit you out in most cases. And just a little warning, gold is NASDAQ's little sister, without a doubt. So gold tends to be a little temperamental. I've been doing a lot of study in the evenings, trying to make it easier for you guys, and I think I have something figured out. There's a section dedicated to management. In the beginning, management's very mechanical. And then some ideas, and Rob, some ideas when you can hold for those bigger moves where just getting paid isn't the best because there's so much information saying let's get paid bigger. That's a great one to study as you get good at entries. Patterns that repeat themselves. I like that phrase, patterns that repeat themselves. I could scroll back 20 years on any chart, and I could find pivot stop outs, and I can find momentum, and I can find entries, and I can find termination conditions, and all of this is possible because these patterns repeat themselves every day, guys. That's all the high probability trend trade is it's a pattern that has been studied, it's a pattern that has been tested, it's a pattern that has been proven to win more than it loses, and it's not anything more than just trading the pattern. So that's what we're teaching in the first hour here, is the pattern. But you're going to start to see patterns outside of those rules. You're going to start to see things like the gap theory. You're going to start to see divergence creating patterns. You're going to begin to see trigger location, all these different things, and you'll be able to use them maybe to foster a little extra success or to keep you with your guard up waiting for the best of the best. And then there's a whole section on termination conditions, guys. That's the Mark Novak section because this was my Achilles heel. It still is some days. It's trading into areas, forming an opinion that the market's going to do what I want it to do rather than what my indicators tell me it's going to do. So the goal is go through and study these. Look at all of these. Nobody wants to spend the time to click on 50 links, guys. Grab a cold beer, glass of wine, whatever makes you happy. Start looking at pictures. Question them. What is it? What does it mean to me? And fill up your section with it. You're going to be taking pictures, guys, all the time, all day. You should be taking 15 to 20 pictures a day minimum. Start filling up your spreadsheet. Make it look like the one that I've created for you. The high probability trend trade has three rules: strong triggers, clear path, entry, right? We saw that. It's pretty simple. You need to start taking pictures of the individual pieces. And once you do, once you understand the difference between strong and weak triggers, you're never going to get fooled. And once you know the difference between a clear path and a termination condition, you're less likely to trade into an area that may stop the market. And then once you know what an entry looks like, guys, you're going to wait for the market to come to you with a limit order instead of jumping in late or panicking and getting in early. And then finally, there's the first tab, guys. This is the copy of your tracking. And this one is, I think, the most important tool as you begin taking trades, as you begin really practicing, because this is your trade journal. And every trade that you take, there should be a picture placed into this spreadsheet. I'm going to tell you right now, when I went live the second time, because the first time I didn't do it right, I had pictures of about 600 trades in my spreadsheet, about 600 trades that I could go back, study. And what happened is I could look at these trades, and I got in the habit of looking at them every morning. And yesterday, what worked and what didn't work, right? I want to repeat what worked. So already before I ever take a trade, I'm thinking about the things that were bringing me success. The things that didn't work are the things that I'm trying to avoid. But again, I've got that mindset. First thing, I'm going to not trade into termination conditions. I'm going to not trade against three divergences. And you'll find that the things that work keep you relaxed. As you grow with these rules and learn to trust them, you'll take trades where you will literally just stand up, walk away. You're like, it's the perfect trade. They can either stop me out or it's going to go to my profit targets. And you'll become that comfortable with it. And the things that feel forced, you're going to realize that you're probably breaking rules. And the more you study the individual rules, the more you understand that those nerves are your body telling you, hey, you might be fudging things a little bit. But doing this study each and every morning, guys, it's going to prepare you for the day. It will accelerate the learning. And then on that same patterns concept, guys, when you drop these pictures in the room, one of the most annoying things about me, just ask my wife, is that I don't forget things. So if you have a habit that you're creating, whether it's bringing you success or taking it away from you, whether it's a trade that you're absolutely nailing, Erlen is momentum trades, or if there's a challenge trading into termination conditions, I'm going to recognize that pattern. And we're going to start looking at it, and if it needs a little adjustment, we'll adjust. If it needs a little fostering to make it more effective, we will. But the patterns that you see, the patterns that I see, are the same thing that are going to get you towards trading those patterns, bringing success. So, without further ado, let's learn some rules. Let's break them down individually. 3 rules, right? 2 charts. How easy is that? How simple. Embrace simplicity. But you know what? Hold on. Before we do that, I want to do something else. Let me back this up. Our first hour, ladies and gentlemen, is the same first hour every hour. So you folks that are new with me, you're probably saying, oh my gosh, he's saying the same thing that he said yesterday. I do this because the more times you hear the exact same message, the more likely it is to stick. So the first hour of Classroom is really kind of lecture-y. It's the rules for the high probability trend trade. We're going to learn the trigger line and Fibonacci rules for when it's okay to trade. And when I say for when it's okay to trade, not when I'm giving you permission, but you will have a recognition of when you have a statistical advantage, when you're looking at a pattern that typically wins more than it loses. You're going to simulate, practice, get through there, guys. Mess things up. It's totally cool. If you see something, take a picture, write it down, drop it in the room. If you're wondering something, take a picture, write it down, drop it in the room. If you take a trade, win, lose, or draw, drop it in the room, guys. And what we're going to do is we're going to work together to get you taking trades that have the correct rules, trades that have an established, proven statistical advantage. Because what happens a lot is people will trade on simulator and get lucky. And the brain doesn't know the difference between simulator and real. And if you've ever panicked about losing simulator money, you know that's true. So what you're doing is when you start getting this mentality that luck is good, that luck typically runs out the first day you go live. So We're going to simplify it. I'm going to keep it as basic as I know how. You have to know what looks you're going to commit to. That's where that spreadsheet's going to pay dividends. And the more time that you see something, they actually become easy. Boring is crap for me. It's not boring for me though. It's not at all. Repetition is key, guys. I firmly believe that. For those of you that don't know, I've talked about him in the room before. My oldest son has high functioning autism, and patterns are his world. Repetition is his world, and what I've found is that the same is true for everybody. But those of us that aren't on the spectrum tend to shy away from it because we do think it's boring, because we're like, man, I've already heard that. I'm such a big deal. I've already got it. Where in his world, hearing the same thing 100 times, he'll be an expert. He'll never forget it. Become an expert. And that comes through repetition, from seeing the same thing every day. And I agree, Jen. I love it. I think that the repetition is key, because what happens on what you hear on day one and what you hear on day 100 are the exact same message, but you're going to process it in a different way. And then for you guys that are brand new, oh no, I lost my picture. I want to show one picture. And you'll notice that it goes right to it. This is going to be your first 3 or 4 days with me, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to feel like you're drinking from a fire hose. It's going to feel like a flood of information coming at you. And you're going to wonder why in the first 3 days you're not a successful trader, because we all have these egos. Understand that the way I teach this class, that the repetition, that the breaking down of the rules is designed to take this out and let you take little sips until it becomes an actual thing for you. So don't panic if you don't understand on day one, but give yourself the confidence of posting your questions in the room, because I want to answer all of them. So let's use 2 charts. Keep it simple. Let's use 3 rules. Find 3 advantages, guys. And that first advantage is strong triggers. This happens on the large chart. Large chart leads the way. And these strong triggers are pretty easy. Man, guys, we all have something that makes us special. On the large chart, remember direction. Green is up, red is down. That's the easiest way to think about it. When the background is green, guys, both my small, the solid lines, and the large triggers must be green. Colors have to match. If they don't match, you don't have strong triggers. How easy is that? Strong triggers means that your small triggers have broken above and away from the small or the large triggers. Everybody look at these trigger lines and picture in your head scissors that have just opened. And when scissors are open, they can get some work done, guys. And this opening of the scissors, this separation between the small and the large, what that does for me, I need my pew-pew, is it lets me know that the odds are favorable for the market to continue up. The same is true when my small triggers are red, my large triggers are red, my background is red. That separation between the small and the large lets me know that the odds are favorable for the market to continue down. This is strong triggers. This is always strong triggers, whether it's a large chart, small chart, range chart, month chart, year chart, whether it is Tesla, Apple, crude oil, it doesn't matter. This is strength, guys. And when you have strong triggers on the large chart, it's the best of the best time to use that smaller, faster chart to buy Fibonacci support. Use that refinement chart. The best time to sell Fibonacci resistance on a smaller, faster chart. On a large chart, it looks like a tail. It looks like a wick. It's all pink. Can anyone else not see it? So RDSP, one of the things, if my screen doesn't look right, do me a favor, log out and log back in. A lot of times that'll fix what ails you in Discord. Maybe there's a little glitch in the matrix. And then when you log back in, I think you logged out. You did that instantly. Let me know and let's see if it's right. But everyone else can see me? Cool. Strong triggers, guys. Buy support when it's up, sell resistance when it's down. You will be able to pinpoint through rule number 3 where this tail is most likely to form, whether it's up or down. And once you do that, RD, we cool? Are you back? Look good? I don't want you to miss any great lessons. Still pink on my chart screen. Like the whole thing is just pink or the colors are off? Man, Ron, I am unshowered. We're not going to do that. Let me think, RDSP. One thing that I do if I'm ever having issues with Discord is I'll do the old Control-Alt-Delete and pull up my task manager, and I'll kill Discord through the task manager so it stops every process going on, and then I'll reopen it, and 9 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times it fixes whatever's going on. If you want to give that a try, I apologize for the challenges. There's nothing worse than coming in. I know everyone else can see me, so it might be on your end, but I want to go through all the different things that may be helpful. And guys, this is what this classroom is for. If there's a challenge, drop it in there. Like, ask. And let me know. One of the things, too, for you new people, if you ever can't hear me and you type in the room, hey, are you talking? I can't hear you. And you see, like, 20 yeses in the room, that means that everyone else can hear me, and you probably need to reboot. So, all right, we're going to go on with momentum, guys. Strong triggers, smalls above large, large or wide or in the other direction, smalls below. So let's take a look. Let's go back on crude oil, and you guys give me a Y in the room. Small triggers are above the large triggers. The large triggers are wide, they're angled in the direction of the trend. Guys, this is odds favorable momentum. And check this out, and we'll come back and check it. There's one of those tails. I don't know if this was an entry on a smaller, faster chart, but what I do know is that there was a pullback. I can see that wick. I'm going to get in the habit of circling these tails historically. Anytime I see small outside of the large, I'm going to circle a tail. And I'm going to be able to go back, and I'm going to be able to study and see if there was an actual entry. And you guys have 10 days worth of data where you can go back and go, hey, look, there's one. Let me circle that and see if maybe there was an opportunity to make money. And just keep doing it. And what you're going to do is you're going to be able to start through repetition seeing that with this momentum, that market tends to push. That market tends to continue in the direction. We're developing a little bit of trust in momentum just right off the bat. So, strong triggers, guys, leads the way. Strong triggers doesn't last forever. Sometimes the scissors close, right? And when the scissors close, when those small triggers work their way back inside of the large triggers, this is what we call a weakening of the large triggers. And when I have weak large triggers, guys, anything can happen up or down. And anything can happen. Let that bounce around in your skull a little bit. I no longer have odds favorable momentum. That's the battle cry in class. Odds favorable momentum. It pushes a market. It breaks key areas. It covers mistakes. Now I have, anything can happen, right? It might go up. It might go down. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be risking money as a new user on an anything can happen look. So during that life cycle, what you're going to do is you're going to say to yourself, brand new users, that's just the live account, Paul. So right now I have crude oil open. I have 10 days worth of data that I can scroll back. 10 days worth of data where I can identify strong triggers. 10 days worth of data where I can pinpoint termination conditions. 10 days worth of data where I can see pivot stop outs, right? You don't have to be in a trade to become brilliant. All you have to do is know what you're looking for and commit the look to memory. And that's one of the beauties of what we do, guys. When's a good time? I do it. I do a lot of replay on the weekends, Paul. Um, I do replay in the evenings sometimes. If I go through and I have a day and I've made some mistakes, or I've missed some trades, I'll go back and I'll use replay and I'll pause it and I'll make sure that my rules are met and I'll pause it and I'll check my trading plan and make sure that I'm good. Or maybe if I'm studying a new pattern, I'll go back on replay and I'll trade that pattern 100 times and make sure that it wins more than it loses. Anytime is a good time for replay. Anytime you're not trading live, that's the cool thing. Is the one thing I can't give you is experience. You can use that market replay and you can double your experience every day. You can have 2 years worth of knowledge over the course of a year. So I like it, Paul. I think it's a very underutilized tool. Paul W. is the king of replay. And he comes in every day with questions and stuff from his replay. And if you watched him, he's getting really good really fast. So guys, odds favorable momentum, best of the best, strong triggers, self Fibonacci resistance on that smaller, faster chart. I love it. And then when the small triggers, one line gets inside, but one line's still out, you still have momentum. You still have momentum, but you don't have odds favorable momentum. So you're going to rely on your chart reading to make sure that all your charts agree. You can still go short, but it's not high probability so much anymore. And then with those anything can happen triggers, guys, you're going to find a way to make money in that look. But it's going to be your chart reading. It's going to be that ability to recognize things in a moment that'll have you managing these a little more aggressively. And man, when those scissors are closed and we hit an area, that area is more likely to hold, guys. So weak triggers into an area, that should be an automatic deal breaker for you. And that's odds favorable momentum. So I'm going to ask again for everybody that's in this classroom. Are you guys cool with the idea that it doesn't have to be difficult? That when the smalls are above the large, you have strong triggers up. And when the smalls are below the large, you have strong triggers down. And anything else, trigger lines don't agree, small inside, is not that first advantage that we're looking for. Because once you have momentum, we got to go look for those termination conditions. We got to make sure that we're not trading into areas that may stop the market as a brand new user. What is a termination condition? Well, it's nothing more than a Fibonacci-based indicator, guys, that has the potential to stop the market. You're going to hear me say may, might, could, potential a lot because nothing's guaranteed, guys. Nothing is ever guaranteed, which is why we trade patterns that are proven. Sometimes these areas break. They have to break, otherwise we're caught in this little range. So what we're going to do is we're first going to identify the lines on the chart. That's all they are. They're just lines on a big chart. Divergence highs, divergence lows, resistance, support, yellow one-to-ones. This is kind of your little roadmap to what the areas are. And we're going to use those trigger lines, the same trigger lines that said, hey, check it out, you've got odds favorable momentum. We're going to use them to understand when there's areas likely to stop the market. We're going to use them to understand if those areas have the potential to break and if they've broken. News at 9:45. Thank you for that, Cindy. And I want to talk about why I'm so jazzed about fibs, guys. And if you scroll back and watch how often they stop the market, you will too. So the large crowd, this big group of people, groupthink, right? Mob mentality. These are the guys that create direction and momentum, and these are the people that react to the areas. These are the guys that move the market, guys. They are the buyers and the sellers with all the money behind them. And what happens is these guys react to the areas. These guys look at those lines, and when they reach them, well, maybe they jump ship and take profits, or maybe there's a giant group of sellers right there at that key area that want to give them a push down. And here's the sad truth for most of you guys, is you'll never know. You will never know what the intention is. You will never know whether that area is going to hold or break right in the moment. But what you will know, without question, is that if your price bars get down to that decision-making point of support and the trigger lines remain above support, or below resistance, when resistance is reached, you've reached an area that may stop the market. You've reached an area that may create an untradeable bounce. So what happens is your statistical advantage is gone. Even with odds favorable momentum, your advantage of a clear path is gone. And the safest bet for the brand new user is to do absolutely nothing. To sit on your hands and say, you know what? I have absolutely no freaking idea what the people in charge are going to do here. I choose to do nothing. And that's a termination condition, guys. And if you scroll back one more time, let's see if we can find examples of it on a large chart. After this giant move from midnight all the way up to 5 a.m., they chose to stop right at Fibonacci resistance, and there was a fight. Came right from Fibonacci support, pulls back to Fibonacci resistance, the triggers remain below, resistance stops it. So go back and look at these pictures, watch these fibs, stop the market cold, watch these termination conditions in the good time, and what happens is you start to believe it. You start to say to yourself, holy crap, I now have the ability to know where the market may stop. I now have the ability to understand when my advantage has gone away, and you're going to speak to yourself in terms of these advantages. So if price reaches an area and the triggers don't break, well, it's a termination condition. When is the area considered broken? Let me see what we have here, RDSP. That's weird. Who is your sales representative? If you're open to it, Jim, let me send Jim a message. I think he's out of the office this morning. Let him get on with you and see if he can fix that. Or maybe get with Jason in tech and see if there's a setting somewhere, because that's odd. I've never seen that. That pink filter. I'm sorry you're having challenges, but we will get them fixed. I've already sent Jim a message. I'll ask Jason if there's anything he knows about it as well. And hopefully tomorrow we've got you back where you need to be. If you want, you'll be able to watch this video on YouTube. I record it each and every day. So hopefully they can get you squared away. So guys, if price reaches an area, whether it is support, resistance, the triggers remain above support, below resistance, that area has the potential to stop the market. When both my small triggers and my large triggers get to the other side of an area, so in this case support, when my small triggers and my large triggers get to the other side, well, that area is considered broken. The path is now clear. Rule number 2 is met. And what you're going to find a lot is that when support breaks, it behaves as resistance. And with that odds favorable momentum and clear path, you guys are going to pinpoint right where that tail is most likely to form using a smaller, faster chart, taking advantage of momentum and a clear path. So for the brand new users, let it be simple. If price reaches resistance, in this case, and the triggers don't break, sit on your hands and do nothing. There's the potential that it'll break, but it's not there yet. The potential is there when the smalls absolutely smash through the area, but the large are lagging. And this is what we call a 50-50 look. 50% through, 50% not. And it's still not broken, but it does have the potential because of the momentum. I'm going to give you a plan on how to capitalize on that. But once the small triggers and the large triggers get to the other side of resistance, well, now resistance is support. That odds favorable momentum is present, and you're going to pinpoint where that tail is most likely to form. And this is going to ultimately become your entry, guys. So keep it simple initially. Let it be broken or not. And what you'll find is that it really pays dividends for you. This is a market that is absolutely screaming. And it hits those yellow 1-to-1s. And momentum already broke support. And when it hits these 1-to-1s, the rules say no more short trades. And thank goodness, because look at the reaction. Look at that untradeable bounce. There were sellers there, or maybe there were profits being taken by the sellers, and the buyers pushed. But they pushed right into resistance and the triggers remain below. So you can't really go long or short. And then the trigger line colors don't even match. So I don't have momentum. I don't have a clear path. And this market rattles for about 45 minutes. 45 minutes of rules not being met. This is your 90%, guys. This is you sitting on your hands waiting for the advantage. Ultimately, the advantage shows up. You get momentum. Your path is clear, and you pinpoint that entry. And guys, this becomes the easiest money that you can make. And Jonathan showed you guys a great example of that this morning. When the path isn't clear, when the triggers don't match, when decisions are being made and fights are being had, if you learn to sit on your hands and do nothing, ultimately it sets up for the easiest trades, for the highest probability trades, for the trades that represent that 10% of your day. So I'm going to ask everybody, are we good with the idea that if price reaches an area and the triggers remain above support or below resistance, it's okay to do nothing? It's all right to not be in that move. Every penny doesn't have to be your penny, guys. Are you good with the recipe for termination conditions? If you're not, this is an awesome time for you to say, Mark, show me that picture where price reaches a divergence high and the triggers remain below. I want to make sure that I have this. Reinforce it. When price reaches resistance and the triggers remain below, that's a termination condition, right? And then what about those one-to-ones? Oh yeah, trigger lines stay below. Well, that's a termination condition as well. And anything that can happen at a high, well, it can happen at a low. There's those one-to-ones, there's support, there's a divergence low. Each and every one of these, the trigger lines remained above. So it's not that we have to ever hope or wish or want. We have to learn that simple recipe for when it's best to pump the brakes and do absolutely nothing. Put those in your spreadsheet, guys. Sometimes the market doesn't reach an area. Sometimes it doesn't make it to those one-to-ones in the first push or that resistance in the first push. And it'll change direction anyway, guys. So we're going to use one termination condition on a smaller chart. I need you guys to excuse me 1 second. I'll be back in literally 30 seconds. All right, maybe back in 12 seconds. Sometimes the market doesn't make it, guys. Sometimes it changes without us being able to recognize it, because the reality is that slow-moving chart, it's hard to see change on. So this is the only termination condition that I'm going to accept from a small chart. The only time my small chart is going to tell me that my path isn't clear, and that's when I have 3 divergences in the same price range. 3 losses of momentum. And let's go through for you new guys what exactly divergence is. Because it doesn't have to be difficult. If price comes down and goes back up, that creates a pivot, guys. This is nothing more than a pivot. Price goes down and goes back up. If there is a loss of momentum at that pivot, if your momentum does not follow price, the software is going to print a negative number and a cyan line from a low, or a negative number and a magenta line from a high. The negative number means nothing. It's a byproduct of the calculations. Don't give it power. If there is a loss of momentum, it's just a loss of momentum. That's all it means. But if I get 3 losses of momentum in the same price range, whether it's a large chart, small chart, whatever, you're going to see it on the small chart first. Well, it may terminate the trend. And if those small triggers are inside of the large, weak triggers, same rule number 1 lesson, well then it becomes more powerful. I'm trying not to giggle. My dog found a squeak toy. And then if that third divergence, that third loss of momentum is higher than the previous, then it becomes more powerful still, guys. And you're going to be able to use this look. I'll put her on camera today then. I'll do that, Paul. She's rad. She's got the best eyes ever. This look from a low, or this look from a high, what that does for you guys is it helps you see change that you're not going to see on that large chart. So 3 divergences here with a clear path. says no more shorts. And 3 divergences on the small chart up here keeps you from taking that long. So 3 divergences in the same price range says no more. Don't take the trade, let it work itself out. It doesn't mean that the trend's going to end forever, but it does mean that you no longer have a clear path. And guys, that's rule number 2. Rule number 2 is probably the most often broken rule. And just reminding you guys, the large chart so far has established the direction of the market. And let's just use this picture for reference. So the background is green and the trend is up. Can you guys give me a Y in the room and help me out here? If you see that it's up, that my smalls are above the large, so I have momentum, and that price has not reached one of those key Fibonacci areas, guys, that's the money look. That's the one. This is the best of the best. This is what has me going to a smaller, faster chart. It's time to look for an entry, guys, and we're going to do that on that small chart. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to use a limit order to buy or sell a pullback at an area inside a trigger. So we're going to break this down. This is the wordiest rule of them all. I'm going to use a limit order. I'm literally going to wait for the market to come to me. And I'm going to have that limit order waiting at an area. Fibs, midbands, yellow 1-to-1s. On the large chart, lines ruin the party. On the small chart, lines are where trades originate. But I want these lines to be inside of triggers, guys, and inside of what we call favorable large triggers. And the reason we use this small chart is because when the large chart says, hey, we're going up strong, and there's not a damn thing in my way to stop me, there's these yahoos, this small crowd. They're like, hey, you know what? I'm sitting on some cash, man. Let's go short. And they create that pushback. They give you that little retracement counter to everything the large crowd wants. We're going to take advantage of that one, guys. And we're going to do it at areas inside of what I call favorable large triggers. So trigger lines are moving averages. That's all they are. If you go back and look at your large chart for 10 days, you'll notice that price loves to come back to the trigger lines. If you do it on your small chart, you'll notice price loves to come back to the trigger lines. So we're taking advantage of that. These trigger lines represent a correction point. On your small chart, there are the large triggers, and they're smooth. And those are the ones that are used with the small triggers to define momentum. But there's also these stepped large triggers, guys, and those are just the large triggers from the large chart. Look at this picture. Price pulled back to the large triggers on the large chart. Look at this picture. Price pulled back to the large triggers on the small chart. Uh-oh. I see a pattern. So when the large and the synthetic are one on top of the other, just two snakes riding piggyback, what you've done is you have the smallest possible area to give that market something to bounce off of. Fibs, midbands, yellow 1-to-1s. So we expect the correction to the triggers. We expect the bounce from the areas. And this is what we call favorable large triggers. This will minimize your risk, guys. This will make it so easy to pinpoint where the market is most likely to continue. And when those trigger lines start to split, start to create space between one another, you've essentially doubled the point where you expect the market to correct, which means that you've decreased the accuracy. You have limited your ability to pick with precision where the market may continue from. This is where risk typically gets increased a little bit as you grow with the software, as you become a chart reader, as you begin to recognize patterns. You'll begin to understand how to take advantage of this look. But for the brand new users, favorable large triggers are where it's at. So large chart has to say strength, has to have momentum. Rule number 1 has to be met. Large chart has to not have anything in the way. The most current bar, guys, this is a historical picture, has to not reach Fibonacci resistance. After the fact, you see that big tail, right? That big wick. We don't trade the tails. We don't trade the wicks, guys. By the time you know that this is a tail, the market is all the way back up here. So what you're going to do is you're going to trade a pullback on the small chart, You're going to let it smack off of an area inside of favorable large triggers, and this is going to become your entry for the highest probability trend trade. You can go back and study this entry by circling tails historically and seeing if they line up. But let's talk about the process to find an entry, guys, to pinpoint where the market is most likely to continue, to give you the highest chance of success, to take advantage of momentum in a clear path. Everything begins with the reversal bar, guys. The reversal bar means that that small crowd is fighting. The reversal bar is not your entry. The reversal bar says, hey, let's get some work done. Let's identify our triggers, large and synthetic, and let's build a box, either mentally or actually with a drawing tool, from the highest point of the triggers to the lowest point of the triggers. Whether it's large or synthetic, it doesn't matter. From the lowest point to the highest point, your areas have to be within. So once you identify your trigger lines, you're going to look for areas, fibs, mid-bands, yellow 1-to-1s. Your window of opportunity, the area where the market is most likely to continue, your best of the best entry here for the highest probability trend trade is going to extend from the highest point of support to the lowest point of support inside of favorable large triggers. Paul, can you pinpoint what gives you troubles with it? News in 5. Thanks, Andy. Because one of the things about the window of opportunity, let me show you some common mistakes. The first one is that people enter on the reversal bar. They mistake the lesson. They're like, there's my reversal bar, let me go. Okay, then we're going to focus on some today. The second one is that people enter when price hits the triggers rather than areas. So Paul, you've got to break it down individually. And you've got to turn it into a process. You can't say, where's my window? We're going to fix this today. Are you ready? I love this. We're going to do this. First thing you're going to say, Paul, is you're going to say, my rules are met on the large chart. I have momentum. And guys, this is what it looks like when you're waiting for a pullback. I have momentum. I'm afraid to look at that, Morgan. And I haven't reached resistance. Oh, break it down. So once this is true, guys, once you have odds favorable momentum, love it. Once you have a clear path, let's look for an entry. So I'm going to turn my attention to the smaller, faster chart. And this is what it's going to look like. As a brand new user, everything is screaming up and there's this noise in your gut that's just going, son of a bitch, they're running without me. And then all of a sudden, that small crowd shows up to the party and they're like, hey, Morgan, check it out. Here we are. Hey, Paul Flowers, we're gonna start to fight. And at this point, you're just like, okay, cool. There's that reversal bar. I'm not going to enter the market on this one, jumping in at the middle of nowhere. That's not the rules. So once the reversal bar prints, the first thing you have to do is you've got to train your brain. I'm going to look for my trigger lines. That's it. I'm not looking for areas. I'm not looking for entries. I'm not creating windows. I just want to find those trigger lines. Where are they? Where is the top of the triggers? Where is the bottom of the triggers? You with me so far? And this is where a little bit of study, you have to remind yourself, my trade doesn't come from triggers. It doesn't. And write it down. My trade doesn't come from a trigger line because trigger lines are like clouds, right? Trigger lines are the air between you and a wall, and you're throwing a tennis ball as hard as you can. So now you need to give it something to bounce off of. Now you need to give it something to bounce off of. So once you identify where the triggers are, you say, let's find something solid. Let's find fibs, mid-bands, and yellow 1-to-1s. And what you're going to recognize is that this mid-band is inside of favorable large triggers. These yellow 1-to-1s are inside of favorable large triggers. And then what you have to do is say, this box right here is where the market is most likely to continue. You with me so far, Mr. Flowers? Awesome. Once you identify this box, the only thing left for you to do is you're going to activate a limit order right at the top of that window, at the highest point of support inside of favorable large triggers. And you're doing that because your large chart looks like this, because your large chart has a freight train of momentum to the upside, and there is absolutely nothing for it to bounce off of. So you look at the small chart and you say, what are the chances the small crowd's going to push down through all this when the large crowd says not a chance? So your entry comes from that highest point of support, a tick or two above, inside of favorable large triggers. And the same is true going the other direction. Large chart leads the way. Rules have to be met. And once they're met, we go from reversal bar. We're going to do it a little quicker this time. Identify your triggers from the lowest line to the highest line. And this is a great picture. I love this picture because notice that the reversal bar hits not only the triggers, right? Reversal bar is not my entry, triggers aren't my entry. Otherwise, I'm in the market already at 51. But the reality is it's the areas within. It's those fibs, mid-bands, yellow 1-to-1s that are sitting inside of those triggers. That's where my window is. That's the best of the best. This is where it's most likely to create a bounce. This is where the small crowd is most likely to be stopped because the large crowd wants it to go down. So what you're going to do is you're going to activate the limit order. You're going to say right at the bottom of this window is where I want to get into the market. To hell with the small crowd. I don't think they're going to get anything done, and I don't think they're going to get past this area because 1,000 pictures say this is the most likely spot for a bounce. And if the small crowd pushes up to you, you're in that trade. But you're not just in a short trade, right? You're in a short trade with the advantage of momentum, dictated by the strong triggers on the large chart. You're in a trade with a clear path, absolutely nothing between you and your target. And now you're in an area where the market is most likely to continue, right at that bounce point. And the easiest way to get good at this one, Paul, is, let me close that out real quick, oops, is to go back on the large chart. And when you see the rules met, let me get my small chart up too. Where's it at? There it is. When you see rules met, when you see odds favorable momentum, when you recognize the potential to break or broken, circle it. And look at where it came back to. You had two options, right? You had split triggers, so it made your window bigger, but let's go through the whole process. The reversal bar prints, and I want you to see something. When that reversal bar prints, the bottom of my triggers are here and the top of my triggers are here. Probably not getting in here. This is no longer that's not our entry because the area is not broken. And this is where understanding what kind of trade you're taking, Paul, pays dividends. This area isn't broken yet, and I've got a loss of momentum, but your window of opportunity honestly goes from this lowest point of resistance to this highest point of resistance. So between 17 and 28, you have an 11 tick range where the market is most likely to continue. Does that make sense? And when we talk about stop placement, one of the things that we're going to talk about is stops go where the market shouldn't. Stops go, whoops. And we're going to hit this one, but just for this lesson, stops go on the other side of the triggers, beyond the correction point. So even if you got in at 17, the market continues up, and it hits the mid-band. So if you chose, this is my highest point of resistance, inside of favorable large triggers. Does that make sense? I think you've got it. So the window goes, whoops, from the lowest point of resistance to the highest point of resistance. You've pinpointed exactly where the market is most likely to continue. And it goes up. It's in the correction point. It goes a few ticks beyond. That's why our protective stops go out here beyond those windows. And it starts down and it fluctuates. Small chart fluctuations will give you heartburn. But look at what the large chart is still on the most current bar, guys. It still says down strength, all that good stuff. And look what it does. Right off the mid-band, right inside of favorable large triggers. Guys, this is a live freaking market. This isn't me hand-picking pictures trying to convince you that this stuff works. And this is where we currently reside. So you can go back, Paul. There's that one that we circled earlier. So let's go back to it on the large chart and see what it looks like. The first thing you have to ask yourself is, did I have odds favorable momentum? Let's get rid of the cheat circle. Let's do it together. Let's walk through the entire process. All right. One more. There we go. So do I have odds favorable momentum? Everybody play along. Jeffrey Dean, play along. Algo, play along. Tang, play along. If you're brand new, play along with me, guys. This is fun. This is how we get good. Odds favorable momentum. 2 of you say yes. I am inclined to believe 2 of you. There's 3 now. So what am I doing? On my smaller, faster chart, it looks like this, guys. I don't have an entry, right? Everything's going up. I'm waiting for a reversal bar. And at the time of the reversal bar, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a box from the top of the large triggers to the bottom of the triggers, right? And what does this box represent? It represents the correction point, where I expect price to go. But the thing is my entries don't come from trigger lines. My entries come from areas within trigger lines. And watch this. Paul, that is the only area inside of favorable large triggers. Do you see it? My job as a rules-based trader is to find that window and a couple ticks above it, because really, who's going to trip over pennies to save a couple dollars? This becomes my entry. So if the market comes down, I want you to notice how the mid-band comes up, guys. It's a moving average. It's okay to move your stop or to move your entry as the market comes down, as the mid-band comes up. And there it is. If it got you there, cool. If not, they came back for you. And now you're in a long trade. You're in a long trade with momentum. You're in a long trade with a clear path. You're in a long trade on the pullback to the one freaking line. Get over there, inside of triggers. Do you see it? So if you go back historically and you do this, check this out. Look at where that yellow box ended up on the large chart. We didn't circle a tail on the large chart. We defined an area of support inside of favorable large triggers on the small chart. And there it is, right there, guys. This is your study tool. So let's scroll back and let's see what this one looked like. What we're doing is we're learning how to study. Not really a clear path. Does everybody see that? The triggers haven't really broken the areas yet. It's pretty ugly. Momentum isn't the best. And there's no area. Like it's horrible. Guys, this is going to be a more advanced trade. So skip it. Say, that's not my trade. But let me come back and let's look for just the dream team, right? Whoa. 11:52 yesterday. Let's go to the next circle. Well, yeah, we actually did this one. This is the one I think we talked about in class, right? Being able to recognize, to come through. And guys, this is all you're doing is you're just scrolling back and you're saying, did I have momentum? Did I have a clear path? Did it pull back to support inside of favorable large triggers? That was our last one, right, Paul? But guys, it happens all the time. And the more you study it, the easier it becomes. This one's still going down. I love it. So those are your entries. You've got to study these entries. And when you study these entries, what it does is it makes it easy for you to understand where the market is most likely to continue. When you study these entries, it lets you know where the market shouldn't go. And this becomes your first opportunity for stop placement. When you can pinpoint, when you can create that box, this is where the market is most likely to continue. This is the best of the best. This is where my advantages are. Well, then you understand where the market shouldn't go. Typically 4 or 5 ticks above all the trigger lines. So this goes back to the idea that the more spread out your trigger lines are, the larger your risk may be. And this is it, guys. And this is your stop. And I'm going to let you in on a secret right now. And I have absolutely zero reservation sharing this with the classroom. 20 to 30% of the time, those assholes in the small crowd are going to come get your stop. 20 to 30% of the time, guys, you're gonna get stopped out. You're gonna lose a trade. Why? Because anything that wins 70 to 80% of the time is mathematically obligated to lose 20 to 30% of the time. It's a cost of doing business. Guys, it's okay. It's a normal part of a positive equity curve. So I don't want you to get all sad-faced if you get stopped out in the perfect trade. It's a cost of doing business. But what I do want you to do, if you get stopped out, I want you to go back and I want you to say to yourself, did I actually have momentum? Was there truly a clear path, and did I enter where the market was most likely to continue? And if you did, you took the highest probability trend trade that you could possibly take. You gave yourself every advantage to get into that market, to be successful. And guys, I believe in the power of this trade so much, and the consistency of this trade so much through study, that if you go through the spreadsheet, I posted pictures in my spreadsheet of the absolute perfect entry that got run over. I just have to let the market be wrong. So what you're doing, new users, is you're developing trust in a methodology. You're developing trust in the idea that this works. You're doing it through repetition. You're doing it through study. You're doing it through feedback. And eventually you'll get to the point where you'll mumble things under your breath like, these jerks have to come get me. I'm not going to put my stop in a window of opportunity. I'm not concerned at all. Come get me if you're that good. And they will every now and then. And you'll be like, whatever, next. But with all those advantages, guys, you're more likely to get a confirmation bar in the direction of your trade, one of those reversal bars in the direction of your trade, and you can reduce risk right above that reversal bar. And I'm telling you, it's not uncommon to see you guys post in the room, taking the perfect trade, having every advantage, and it's one of those trades destined for failure for whatever reason, and only losing 2 to 3 ticks because of the precision with which you entered. Guys, great entries create manageable trades. Great entries open up the door for success because they're manageable. The risk is the absolute smallest. And that kind of is your focus, guys. Look at that. Son of a gun, right to Fibonacci support. This is your focus for 30 days. And I know that feels like an eternity, right? I haven't been a day trader my entire life, but I need to be proficient at something that can make me millions of dollars a year inside of the first week, or this is utter bullshit. And there are people with that mentality. Guys, what you have is the world's greatest hammer. This is what Nexgen represents. It is the world's greatest hammer. You can spend $10 million on this hammer, but if you don't learn how to swing it, it's just going to sit in the tool box and gather dust. Oh, dude. Paul, thank you for having the question, because sometimes when you guys ask, and I was thanking Paul, the other Paul, for this earlier today, you change the entire dynamic of the classroom. What you do is you give me the opportunity to say the same darn thing in a different way until it clicks for you. So I owe you one for that one, because somebody else got a little bit better because of your question. Thank you. Here we go. We all want to be traders, right? We all want to be traders. So let's be chart readers first. If you are new, if you are old, if you are confused, this is the fastest way to get to where you want to be, ladies and gentlemen. Some of you have done this. I've been offering this up for 6 weeks, and there's maybe 3 of you that have actually done this drill. And all 3 of you are doing a lot better than you were 6 weeks ago. You have to recognize patterns, guys. You have to recognize a few simple things, and you have to be able to recognize them quickly. So go back and take pictures. Strong triggers, weak triggers, clear path, termination, 50-50 look. That's going to be your first medium probability trade. And entries for the high probability trend trade. But don't just take the pictures, guys. Talk about the whys. So if you take a picture of strong triggers, just taking the picture isn't enough. Why are these strong triggers, right? These are strong triggers because the smalls are above the large, because they're wide, because they're angled in the direction of the trend. And that means odds favorable momentum. And this is a trend that's likely to continue. And if you go back and you take another picture, and it talks about the whys and what it means to you, and you go back and you take another picture, right? And you say, I have strong triggers because the smalls are above the large, because there's space between the two. I have the advantage of momentum. Rule number 1 met. What happens, guys, is by the end of those 25 pictures, you're pretty freaking good at strong triggers. And now you start to find the opposite, the weak triggers, the anything can happen triggers. And you'll never get suckered. That's okay, Paul. Be slow annotating. You got the rest of your life to do this. What I think is a good idea is, instead of doing 25 strong, 25 weak, go do 5 strong, right? And in that same picture, you're going to find weak. Watch this. If I take this picture, just like this, what can I identify in one picture? I can identify anything can happen triggers. I can identify strong triggers. I can identify price reaching support. None of the triggers through is a termination condition. I can identify a pivot stop out. What else? I can identify areas being broken when the smalls and the large get below. I mean, holy smokes. There's an awful lot of opportunity for me to become smarter from just one picture. And let's just for grins see if at 9:35, I was hoping to see that there was maybe 3 divergences or something, but there wasn't. That's okay. So now my chart read is my triggers are slowing. I can see it. And the large aren't through the area, so I know the area is not broken, so I know this isn't a high probability trend trade. So I'm going to start looking at my smaller chart and make sure that I have a way to take this. But guys, if you talk about the whys and you do it for each individual picture, do 5 a day, right? Do 10 pictures a day. Don't overwhelm yourself with this giant monumental task. I'm the same way, Paul. The reason, I had someone tell me once, Mr. Flowers, someone said, man, you read these charts so fast, right? Why do I read them so fast? I'm gonna give you an example real quick. Watch this. This is my secret, guys. There's absolutely nothing moving on the charts that you present me. But it doesn't, and it will go faster. Paul, there may be even like a voice to text kind of thing that you can use. But I want to show you guys something. Weak triggers, strong triggers, triggers don't match. This is only trigger lines. That's how quickly it happens, because there's no pressure of me winning or losing. There's absolutely no pressure of me hoping something happens. There's no pressure of watching fluctuations. The only thing there is the information on the chart. This is a termination condition. Price reaches an area the triggers don't break. I know this because I've taken 50 pictures of termination conditions. This is a termination condition. This is a termination condition. It's easy when the charts aren't moving, guys. It's easy to identify these things, to work through it in your brain. I think this is in fact a strong trigger line because the rules for strong triggers say this, but with nothing moving, I have time to analyze it. I have time to work through it. I have time to talk about it. I have time to work through the advantages that it gives me. And the same is true when they begin to weaken. So use this and take these pictures and annotate these charts and commit these looks to memory, because the more pictures you take when things aren't moving, the easier it is to recognize them. And then the other thing is, I'm going to give you all of these. This is a high probability trend trade checklist, finding your entry, the best of the best where the market is most likely to continue. This one talks about termination conditions that reverse the market. This is what we call a strong bottom. Same is true at the top. A termination condition that reverses the market is going to be a strong top or bottom. This is the precursor to the highest probability trend trade. And then this shows you strong triggers and weak triggers. So as you go back and take those pictures, make sure that you're getting it right. Use the language. Termination, potential to break, broken. And there's your windows of opportunities, guys. I give this into the classroom every day. So here's your chart reading 101, right? And then here's your way to make sure that your pictures are correct. And if you don't want to use this, drop them in the room. I'll tell you if you're taking the right pictures. I'm also going to give you a high probability trend trade checklist without pictures, guys. This should be printed out and put on your desk. This is you policing yourself, not asking yourself, was this a good trade? Asking yourself, were my rules met? So you have to learn these individual rules so you can make sure that your rules are being met. And just a little heads up, I've never had anybody in the history of this checklist do worse than 70% trading only high probability trend trades. I've had clients back tested over 3-4 years and end up at like 83-84% win percentage based on the most basic form that we ever teach. And then finally, I'm going to give you what we call the KISS plan. Keep it simple, sunshine. Turns out I'm not allowed to call you guys stupid. Guys, this is the KISS plan. You don't have to. I guess you could lose money. The most successful traders have a plan. The most successful traders that I've ever met in my whole life, and I've met a lot of traders, guys, have a very precise reason for entering the market. And they have a very, very precise reason for exiting the market. And they don't deviate. They don't create exceptions. They don't create scenarios where they're willing to break their rules, because rules, and we posted this picture earlier, guys, rules are not something that you come up with in a day. Rules aren't that one time that support broke, so I'll always trade into support. Rules are the accumulation of thousands of pictures, guys. We took the thousands of pictures so you wouldn't have to, and then as you build plans, you'll take hundreds. But what we're trading is patterns that have been proven to win more than they lose. You don't develop a sample in two trades, 3 trades. So the same way one losing trade doesn't mean that your plan is bad. One time that support breaks, even though it was a termination condition, doesn't mean that you need to trade into that area every time. You've got to go back, find a sample, get a statistical advantage. But this plan, this KISS plan, is designed to be a stepping stone. This KISS plan is designed to be what it takes to get you to read your charts. This KISS plan is designed to get you speaking to yourself in terms of advantages. And this KISS plan will optimize your chances of success with the high probability trend trade and what we call a 50-50 trade, which is that area that has the potential to break. Guys, I have done back-breaking research on high probability trend trade. I have done extensive picture taking and loss taking on those 50-50 trades, and this is without question the best of the best way to take both of them. As you simulate, as you study from all of your class feedback and your continuous practice, let me take a deep breath. You will be empowered to craft a plan tailored to your personal goals based on your experience reading the indicators. Guys, that's a ridiculous AI-generated way of saying When you are a chart reader, you are going to see opportunities beyond the high probability trend trade. When you are comfortable recognizing advantages, you will find ways to take advantage of them, to enter the market differently, to manage trades differently. But until you do, until you're a chart reader, guys, this will optimize your chances of success. I've had brand new people get funded in those prop firms in their first 30 days with Nexgen, following a very simple, basic approach with this KISS plan. So, the simple plan for consistency: don't fight the large chart. Don't fight the large chart. Don't trade against the momentum of the large chart. Don't trade indetermination conditions on the large chart. Don't wish or want or hope against the large chart. If you can do that, you've already eliminated most of the mistakes new users make. You have to define your entry, and it has to be your entry. Guys, this KISS plan is not Mark Novak's KISS plan or Nexgen's KISS plan. This has to be. It has to be Jeffrey's KISS plan or Jonathan's KISS plan. This is Paul's KISS plan and Iron Mike's KISS plan. Because you're going to hold yourself accountable to these rules, guys. You made your goal twice? Nice. Man, go enjoy the beach. Say hi to a chili dog for me. And guys, if you want to know how to live your life, follow Ron's lead. Get in, make your money, get the hell out, and go have some fun. Once you define your entry, once you understand where the market is most likely to continue, guys, you are halfway through eating that elephant. Get great at entries first. Get great at getting in where the market is most likely to continue first. And then you're going to have to manage it. And guys, management, you're actually going to find more difficult than entries, because management, you have something to lose. Entries, you feel like you're just following a pattern. The adrenaline doesn't really kick in on the entries, but the second that order's filled, oh, sweaty palms, until you have a plan that you believe in. And you will create a plan based on your ability reading the indicators, guys. You're going to create your own plan. You are going to know exactly what it takes to get you in and what it takes to get you out. But until you can do that, a management plan that is mechanical, that is very pragmatic, that is opinionless, that is if, then, and emotionless, is the easiest way to get to where you want to be as a new trader. And all of it begins, everything begins with identifying the areas inside with man, that's hard to keep teaching after that. Once you understand where the market is most likely to continue, you understand where the market shouldn't go, guys. Once you understand where your best of the best entry is, you understand where the market shouldn't go, and that's where your initial stop goes. Things that I see new users do, they're like, I'm in it at 92, but I don't want to risk more than 2 points. And they put their stop right about here. They break their rules, and they say, this is where I'm going to put my stop because I don't appreciate the risk. And the market's going to come up, and it's going to hit your stop, and it's going to drop like a ton of bricks. And guys, you're chumming the water. The people that move the market, they know where the scared people are putting their stops. They know where the market should continue. So stops outside of that window of opportunity. And at this point, there's nothing to do. You're either going to get stopped out, totally normal part of a positive equity curve, or all those advantages are going to come together and give you a reversal bar in the direction of the trend, in the direction of your trade. And this is your first stop movement, guys. Your first stop movement using the KISS plan, the mechanical approach, is putting your stop about 2 ticks above that reversal bar. 2 ticks above where the market is most likely to continue. Right there, 2 ticks above. And now your hands go in the air. Awesome. Take care, Andy. And Andy, I gotta say, if you didn't have a great day today, you may be doing yourself a disservice by not posting those trades in the room and asking for feedback. 2 ticks above the reversal bar. And nothing to do, guys. It either hits your target or it stops you out. But with all those advantages in play, it's more likely to hit your target than it's not. And for the brand new users, oh, right on, good stuff. Then tomorrow will be a better day, Andy. I'll see you in the morning, man. Go enjoy your afternoon. Your first target in the KISS plan is $100, guys. $100. Someone said yesterday, if you walk past a $100 bill, you wouldn't hesitate to pick it up. Have that mentality. We do this to get paid, guys, and that $100 is you getting paid. This is success. This is building trust. This is confidence from the memory of success. And just to get you to where you're comfortable, remembering that the large chart leads the way, guys, that the large chart is the whole reason you took a trade in the first place, you're going to go break even. You're going to take all the risk off. You're going to remove the fear. And you're going to wait for it to either stop you out, break even, or hit the second target. And again, with all those advantages, it's probably going to hit that $200 target, which means that from one trade, using 2 charts and 3 advantages, you just pulled off $300, guys. And if you stop trading, if you're like, that's it, no more, I don't want to do it, and that's the best you did every day of your life, that's a $1,500 week. And that's a $6,000 month, guys, and that is a $72,000 year based off of one high probability trend trade with the most just basic form of management that you could ever hope to instill. But here's the deal, is you're becoming a chart reader, and eventually you're going to say to yourself that with all of this momentum, with this clear path, I'm going to let that last one run. I'm going to let that last one come all the way down to Fibonacci support, and I'm going to turn that $300 trade into a $700 trade or an $800 trade, right? And you're going to use your chart reading to understand when it's okay to hold for bigger moves. You will craft a plan tailored to your personal goals based on your ability to read the indicators. And guys, that is my first hour, every day. And it's an hour and a half because I went a little slower. I have a lot of new people in here. So this is where I ask, guys, are we okay with the high probability trend trader? Or is everybody okay with the idea that every move isn't your move, that every dollar isn't your dollar, but if you can be patient and wait, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to find a way to capitalize. You're going to find a way to recognize patterns. You're going to be in a position where you can make money in your underwear every morning or afternoon if you're in Europe, right? So, guys, that's it. That's the first hour. It's very lecture-y. The second hour, we're going to start clicking on everything that you guys have posted. We're going to look at the pictures. We're going to talk about the advantages. And when I look at your charts, guys, I want to be very, very clear. Very, very clear on this. And I'm going to share something with you right here. I'm not judging you on the trades that you take. I'm not deciding whether you're a good or bad person based on what you're doing. My goal is to see how you're doing reading your charts, is to understand whether or not you're recognizing advantages. Because everything that we do with Nexgen, guys, everything is patterns. So you have to build this foundation. So I'm going to say this right now for you new users to hear. For you guys that are brand new, I use blanket rules. I blanket with very conservative rules. Highest probability trend trade, designed to optimize your success. We talk about recognizing advantages extensively. I give you the KISS plan so you have the best chance of winning while you learn and while you learn to read your indicators. So for brand new users, it sounds like all termination conditions are bad. And for brand new users, it sounds like not having odds favorable momentum is bad, and areas that are not inside of triggers are bad. And the reality is that they're not always bad. But until you have experience to know when to use the exceptions, it's just safer this way. You have a higher chance of success by enjoying the blanket rules. And then just like anything, the more time you spend with it, the more you're going to see. So you guys that are brand new are about to see people breaking rules, high probability trend trade rules. Those rules belong to them. These are their trades. These are the rules that they're being held accountable to. Don't be the trade police. You will see more experienced users taking trades that don't fit the rules, and this is going to create confusion as you try to learn them. So if you're one of those new users and you broke a rule, I will point it out. And the new users will see that you just took a trade into a termination condition. But the reality is I understand that you do have the reps, that you do know what you were getting into. So The same way I want new users to not police the old users, I want you old users to not get butthurt if I talk about you trading in determination conditions. And then we grow, guys. And because of your time in the room, you start seeing things and you start to grow and you blossom. And then the most important thing, guys, question everything. I don't care if you're like, ooh, I don't want to contradict Mark. Contradict me. Some of the best lessons that have ever come about from this room have been from people that just simply don't understand what I'm saying. And they're like, you know what, Mark? You keep saying it and you say it like with all this confidence, but it might as well be a different language. Can we try to say it some way different? And we do. And half the room gets better. And I become a better teacher because of it. So, guys, post those pictures, ask those questions. I'm going to let you stare at crude oil for a little bit. And when I come back, we're going to start looking at pictures, guys. So go stretch your legs. I'll see you in 5. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up?
Oh, just trying to make people smart. Trying to make myself smart. Sorry about the vacuum cleaner this morning.
Oh, vacuum cleaner?
Yeah, no, that didn't happen. She walked in my office this morning and swearing behind me. Hey, go by.
I didn't even hear it.
So I pulled out the wet vacuum cleaner and went after it. I was like, oh man.
No, you're good.
Busy day today?
Yeah, I gotta go to the office till 3.
Have fun. I think it's gonna be stormy here today.
I know, horrible.
Yeah, hang on to that
It was so bad yesterday. These streets get really bad.
It's the first time I've seen them like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, dude, they flood up. You see, well, you can't see it from the road, but the creek that runs behind us, over by the bridge off the road, dude, it was like,
Full.
dude, crazy. I've never seen it like that. It's crazy. Have a good day.
Thanks, dude.
right, y'all, let's get back to work and let's start looking at pictures. So I'm going to scroll to the very top of the room and we're going to start looking at what you guys have been posting and hopefully we get some lessons out of it. Alright guys, hopefully you can hear me. My mute button was going crazy back and forth. Can you guys hear me okay? None of the pictures were loading. Yep, okay, cool. Alright, so we're going to go up to the top of the day and let's see what we have. I know we've got some good lessons in there. Alright, so Paul got us going. He's using Market Replay, guys. Market Replay is a tool that you can use to go back, to retrade the markets, to fix mistakes and do stuff like that. But there's a little bit of a challenge with it sometimes. Not gonna lie. Sometimes because you remember what happened, because you're trading the same day, it influences your trades rather than the rules being a part of it. So Paul takes one of those 50-50 trades. It's beautiful. One divergence, no fear, gets in, manages at trouble, and then gets a second lower divergence. Even on a high probability trend trade, this is an exit condition for me. On a 50-50 trade, on a medium probability trade, guys, this is the kiss of death. This is the look that usually, more often than not, remember, patterns that repeat themselves, this thing goes rifling down. So holding a contract after a second lower divergence, not the best idea. Re-entering a 50-50 trade after the second divergence, not the best idea. And then staying in a trade with three divergences in the same price range and the smalls below, it's flirting with a little bit of danger. That's all it is. So make sure that when you're using Market Replay that you're using it to test your rules rather than create profits out of the memory of doing things. And I don't know if that's what Paul was doing, but it is a pretty common mistake. It is something that I used to do. I'm like, oh man, I remember this market dropped 100 points. I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to take this trade and it's going to drop 100 points and I'm going to make $1 million on Sim and I'm going to be simulated popular and simulated girls are going to like me and I'm going to have a simulated mansion and all those things that really aren't real. Let's use it for lessons. Here's one of those terminations, market reverses, odds favorable, potential to break. Paul takes a beautiful entry, manages out of the first problem, and takes us $200. And Paul, that is great use of Market Replay. This entire trade, start to finish, is done perfect. And then Gerard. Let's see what we have here. And you've actually got 2 of them, 3 of them in here. So I'm just going to open all 3 of them, Gerard. And then scroll down to the bottom so that I can answer any questions that you have. So Paul, when I say test your rules, what are your, okay, let's do this. I like this. I like that you asked that question. This is what replay is for. What are my rules for entry? Did I follow them, right? And if you don't have rules for entry, then you don't have any freaking idea whether or not you followed them. If your rules are the KISS plan, you didn't. If your rules say that you can't trade against 2 divergences on a 50-50, then you didn't follow them, right? If your rules say that you shouldn't hold against 3 divergences in the same location, then you didn't follow your rules, right? So you have to know what your rules for entry are. Did I follow my management plan? Which are your rules for exit? And this is what market replay is for. So right here, when the market is right here, your job is to mash that pause button, look at your checklist, identify your rules, look at the market and ask yourself, are my rules met for this trade? Does that make sense? And this is where your brain is going to say, oh, I hate that word. Your brain is going to say, I remember this. Let's go long and break our rules. Sim money makes me popular. And your rules say, go grab a sandwich. Fast forward, right? And Paul, I am so guilty of the top one. I am so guilty of breaking rules on market replay, taking asinine low probability trades, hoping just to see that P&L go up. So when I talk about this, I talk about it from a place of I've been there. So when you use market replay, really focus on your rules. Or Paul, this same picture may be, I'm working on creating an exception when my trigger lines are this strong. Let me go find 50 pictures with this level of strength and see if it does win more than it loses when those multiple divergences print. And it takes a lot of work to create those exceptions, but it can be done. That's where I'm going with that one. Good stuff. All right, Gerard. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. And we're looking for consistency, right? So we're going to line this up. 1421, 1421. Okay. So right here, Gerard, I'm going to annotate your chart with you. It's just so small. Here we go. That's better. So everything starts on the large chart, right? So the first thing and guys, this is how I talk myself through every time I look for a trade. The first thing I ask is, where am I coming from? And what you have, Gerard, is a termination that reverses. You're coming from a strong top, and this is good. Not a strong drop, but a strong top. So that already makes me feel pretty good about the world. Then I ask myself, do I have momentum? And you identify that, yes, without question. You have momentum. You do have odds favorable momentum. Rule number 1 is met. So let's just write that, rule 1. And now you have to ask yourself, do I have a clear path? Well, my smalls are through. My large are not. Area has potential to break, but is not a clear path. Are you with me so far? And I'm doing this for a reason. These are all of my large chart questions, guys. When I'm looking at my large chart, I am looking, where am I coming from? Do I have momentum? Do I have a clear path? And I'm not doing this for any other reason than the very most basic form of learning to be a chart reader starts on the large chart. This is the one that defines direction, momentum, and areas. So far, so good, everybody? And then I come to my small chart. And my only concern on the small chart, this is my entry chart. This is my refinement chart. This is where I'm looking for areas inside of favorable large triggers, right? Areas and triggers. That's all I want, Gerard. And look at this. There was a couple areas right inside of those triggers. And you're coupling it with this momentum, this potential to break coming from a strong top. Are you with me on the annotations? So this entry, do you see how it's on the wrong side of everything that we expect to create a bounce? Your entry, and it means you've got to ride some out, brother. But your entry comes from the lowest point in the window of opportunity, because with this much momentum, we're looking for this. Does that make sense? So, and here's the beauty. Divergence, still struggling if this is a strong termination. It did poke through support on the 1-to-1. Gerard, I'm going to 100% eliminate your need to ask that question, because strong tops and bottoms are 100% large chart. So there is no strong top or bottom ever on a small chart. Small charts are entry charts. Small charts are where we manage the trade. So this is a beautiful trade. You absolutely nailed it. Nicely done. But if you go through this right here, every time, yeah. So start with annotating it, right? After the fact. Go through and ask yourself these same questions. And then what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself in a live market, and you're going to say, man, I don't have odds favorable momentum, and I just hit a divergence low, and there's no areas inside, and now I'm done. And then, Mr. Flowers, this is what we call a strong trending market. When we get 30 or 40 bars in a row, and absolutely nothing blinks, no reversal bars, no trigger change, nothing, areas get broken, this is a strong trending market. There are some people that will say, in a strong trending market, I'm just going to keep selling that mid-band until it doesn't work. Which means that you're kind of breaking your rules visually, but the market has established that it has zero desire to do anything but go down. And it has zero respect for any area that we've thrown in its way, right? So we're just going to say, what an awesome thing. Somebody with more money than me wants this thing to go down. I'm just going to keep selling mid-bands until I finally get stopped out, and then I'll stop selling mid-bands. Does that make sense? And that's where the recognition kind of starts to pay dividends. But you've got to forget the idea of areas inside of favorable large triggers. You've got to forget the idea of odds favorable momentum. And you have to be able to recognize that it is, in fact, a strong trending market. And a strong trending market isn't that push right there, right? It's not that push right there. It's 30 to 40 freaking bars going that direction. So great stuff. You guys are killing it today. I love it. And then Gerard, I believe this is you as well. Here's our box. All right. So here's today's lesson on this one. There's a couple pretty good ones here. You do have a strong top, right? And you do have odds favorable momentum down. And Gerard, help me out. Isn't this the same look? Hold on. Isn't this the same look that had you taking a short here? Strong top, odds favorable. So why the long? Oh, accidental trade. Okay. Accidental. Never mind. I didn't read that. Good, good. That was not the right one. So everything says down, and then we're going to just not even look at this one. Oh, but you did re-enter. You re-entered against momentum. You re-entered against direction. You re-entered against a strong top. Gerard, if this isn't coming from an area, this is where I tell you, you got lucky. You pulled one over on simulator, and they are going to rip your guts out live if you try this. More often than not. Not always. You will get lucky every now and then. But more often than not, fighting momentum and direction on the large chart isn't going to be really great. And then here we're looking for that rule, looking for the trend trade. So let's go through it again, and let's do this again. And guys, I think that this is such a cool way to do it. And let me make those bigger so that they're more visible. All right, that's all of it. So let's go through the same process, Gerard. And we established that we are coming from a strong top. And at the time of your entry, your smalls are up, but your large are flat. I remember this trade. This is not odds favorable momentum. How come? Well, let's go back to a lesson, right? Why is that not odds favorable momentum? I'm glad you asked. Let me find my picture real quick. Because in order to have odds favorable momentum, and this is a good lesson, is the triggers should be wide. They should be strong. They should be pushing in the direction of the trend. And what we had on yours is they were still flat and pretty lifeless. And if you look at them here, you can really see just how flat and lifeless they are. So momentum it's up, but it's not odds favorable. And that's not always a killer. It doesn't look like you hit an area, right? So we can say clear path. And I understand exactly why you're looking for this trade. So the path is clear. So you said, let me go to the smaller chart and let me look for an entry. And let's write the words out. I am going to buy a pullback at an area inside of favorable large triggers. And I'm doing this, Gerard, and for everybody else in the room, because if you use the language, from the rules, every time you're looking for an entry, every time you're establishing momentum, then check this out. There's a trigger with no lines in it. There's a flat, lifeless trigger with no lines in it. So Gerard, you did have an area hovering in between the correction points. Does that make sense? So we left rule number 3 out of it. And sure enough, it goes down to the correction point, right where you got stopped out. And this is where, if I'm so sure of myself that the rules that the large chart says we should be going up, I'll wait for a reversal bar off of those synthetic triggers. And I won't even attempt it until here. And by the time I get there, look at how ugly everything had gotten against me. So one more time, working on those rules, right? Keeping it very, very basic in the beginning. I thought I had a long trade here, but I didn't have an entry. I'm going to choose not to take this trade. I'll take a picture of it. I'll write it out. I'll see what happens. Maybe I create an exception to the rule. But these are what we call avoidable losses. This look, you'll begin to understand, is not a great look. Areas caught in between these triggers isn't your best chance of success. Hell, even when they don't agree, they're more likely to stop the market one on top of the other than like this. So great picture. I like your large chart read. It was a good one. And then let's go through one more time. Termination. Not a reversal yet, right? But you've got those super strong small triggers off of the termination. And you take an entry. Oh, you closed out for a loss. Cool. So let's go through and let's talk about it. Where am I coming from? I'm coming from a termination. It's not a strong top because it hasn't reversed the market yet. So when my large triggers are up and my small triggers are down, Gerard, I don't have momentum yet. I don't have odds favorable momentum. What you have here is that quick momentum from the small triggers, but it's not trend trade momentum yet. And what you're looking at is a trade that Nexgen started teaching in 2004. And I'm going to show you what it looks like because I think it's pretty cool that this trade still happens. When a key area stops the market and the small triggers roll, Nexgen plan, trade number 2, was sell the pullback to those small triggers. What this does for you is it keeps you patient, waiting for that 04 area up here, right where you got stopped out. It typically corresponds with those small triggers, or those large triggers right here. So you're kind of ahead of your time. You're 20 years beyond when this was taught. It's not a high probability trend trade because I don't have momentum. It's not a high probability trend trade because all of my trigger lines are above the fibs, which means that I don't have a clear path. And it's not a high probability trend trade because I'm not getting in at areas inside of favorable large triggers. So Gerard, what you did is actually brilliant. Your read was great. You took the first shot at a pullback after a great termination, but it needed to be just a little bit higher, up closer to these small triggers. And this isn't a high probability scenario, but it was a brilliant read. I love the way you read that. Nicely done. Does that make sense? Does that all make sense? Cool. Great job, dude. Thank you for posting so much. Keep doing it. Guys, don't hesitate to post. I have been known to run over if you guys keep me that busy. But make sure you're doing what Gerard did. Make sure you're telling me why. Tell me what you see. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're hoping, wishing, wanting, praying, right? Joel says everything says down. The path is clear. Joel, are you in here? I hope so. I'm missing your posts lately. I want you guys to see this. Joel, brilliant read. Everything about it is beautiful. Strong triggers, odds favorable. Everything about this is solid. And you take a great entry. What got you out? That's the only thing I would ask is what got you out of the trade? Maybe I've had sticky fingers. You did everything right. And you entered 4 and you took 1 off at 2 ticks. Maybe cover your commissions. And then you let this one go down. And then there's that second higher divergence exit condition. It's an awesome trade, Joel. That one might have been just a little quick on the exit. Just a little quick on the gun. Maybe you double tapped it. I've done that before. Have you guys ever done that? Where you hit buy now and then you just nervous fingers hit it twice. So great trade, Joel. No reason to jump ship on those first 2 contracts. Beautiful, beautiful read, though. I love that there's so many pictures, and these are all posted before class even started. All right, Gerard, same picture. We saw that one. Cav coming in, and Cav saying, hey, look, just a pivot, just a loss of momentum. That's all it is. Cav says, I'll take a shot with multiple divergences and my triggers rolling and my smalls above. And he says, I'll trade directly into that resistance, directly into that. Not a clear path, very much a termination condition. But there's no divergent strong triggers, and Cav's gotten to a point to where he's figured out how to capitalize on that look, how to take advantage of that look, to make money even when things aren't perfect. And that's 100% based on chart reading. Nicely done, Cav, if you're listening. You may have already called it a day. Playing golf, maybe. Miss Jen is next, and she... Man, a lot of scrolling. I'm going to go through a lot and not look at comments for a minute, guys, so I'll come back if I miss something. Jen has a strong bottom. Termination, no triggers through, reverses the market, gives odds favorable momentum. She has all the momentum in the world and the potential to break this area. Actually, it quit printing on her because of the 8 a.m. fib update. So she takes the pullback right to where the fib was. I was going to give you all sorts of grief, Jen, about not having an area. But you did have an area. Your 8 a.m. fib update yanked it from you. And that's exactly where you traded for. And beautiful trade all the way up to trouble. I would be hard pressed to find a problem with this trade. Nicely done. Scrolling through GWC. Triggers wide, find an entry ASAP. Entry, 2 targets reached. All right. Guys, this is just GWC saying I love momentum. And when I have momentum on both charts, I'm just going to jump in on the other side of trouble. And I'll get paid while it's screaming. I won't even give it a chance to take me out. GWC, great use of momentum. Triggers rolled. How about not find an entry? How about wait for my rules to be met, right? According to your last trade, GWC, your entry is right here on the other side of trouble, and your exit is somewhere out here at trouble. Remember consistency, right? Consistency, being able to do the same thing over and over. There's that momentum again. Get to the other side of trouble, get paid at trouble, take your trend trade. Maybe one divergence doesn't scare you. Stay in your trend trade, out at trouble. Down here at 83.09, and call it a day. Beautiful read. Love everything about it, GWC. I hope that made sense. And then great top, odds favorable, 50-50, no divergence, right to the mid-band. GWC gets paid. Textbook, my friend. Really well done, GWC. Putting an awful lot out there that supports the case for momentum. For momentum being one of the most wonderful advantages that you can have. And you just pretty much put on a clinic for us about how momentum creates enough advantage for you to take entries that maybe aren't high probability trend trades. And that's okay. And then Jonathan, we talked about this one, right? When the triggers don't match, when the path isn't clear, it's okay to sit on your hands and do nothing, guys. And then what's cool is that patience is rewarded down here on a high probability trend trade. Multiple divergences take you out, and eventually it finishes the move. That's a good look. Great lesson on patience there. And then Morgan says, to hell with your eyes, Mark. I'm going to give you 17 days of back data, and I'm going to make my charts as big as I freaking can on my big screen TV. Good luck. Morgan, I don't know why you're mad at me. All I've ever done is try to be good to you. Can you guys still hear me? Just kidding. What happened? So this is a good... let me take this picture real quick, Morgan. You could literally omit all of this and most of this and give me a pretty good picture. And I know that we all have our charts. Are you on one chart or one monitor, 2 monitor? You're on 3 monitors, so that's okay. Do you need to know what happened at 2 in the morning to take a trade at 6:30? And this is what and let me show you guys, and I'm not telling you guys how to trade. This is a 32-inch monitor. There's my 2 charts, and honestly, when I'm trading, they probably look more like this. That's everything that I need. I do have a 3rd chart off on the left-hand side, and I have a range chart on the right-hand side, but these are the 2 that are great. If you're using 3 charts, feel free to use 3. It's just a little easier to read. That's me being whiny. Strong top for sure. Odds favorable. I love it. No worries. So your good top was at 534, right? That's 219. It's okay. You're fine. I like it. You got antsy here and jumped in, which wasn't a great idea. There's no termination. They corrected back to the fib. You doubled down because of pullback, waited for originally, but got impatient with. Target one hit, and then close the rest previous divergence line. So jumped in. And here's a good lesson, Morgan. And I think the GWC did a great job of showing this look. Let me take a picture of your picture because, guys, I am not anti-jump in. I am not anti-jump in. But if I'm going to jump in expecting... oh, take care, Kenan. Man, we're loving having you here. Sorry I missed that message. So, Morgan, if I'm going to jump in, odds favorable momentum always, not weakening, right? And if I'm going to jump in, odds favorable always, and clearing the path. And honestly, this right here is an entry that Nexgen teaches. So this is your super awesome jump in spot. When the triggers start to slow, right? When they start to come back, that's not momentum. No worries. But I'm gonna show you how you can capitalize on that feeling of wanting to get in when the market's cranking, and you can have a plan for it. But what's brilliant here is you're like, hold it. And I say this every day. And let's pretend like this was a good momentum trade. Let's pretend like this was the best momentum trade ever. Momentum trades that die, if the large chart still says down, they turn into trend trades. That's all they are. So if this momentum dies, and it did, it just turned into a trend trade. So there's two ways to manage these, Morgan. There is the get out with a loss of momentum, right? And you say, oh, that's it, momentum's gone. I'm out of this little snippet. But I am just full blown on this one. And it creates a management opportunity where you can either get out and get back in, or you can say, if this momentum trade dies, but the rules are still met for a trend trade, well then I'll just put my stop up here where the market shouldn't go, and I'll double down. And I love the way you took this trade. Everything about it. And I guess my only point is, you're going to have a higher chance of success with jumping in when everything is really screaming on both charts. Good stuff, man. Good lessons there, I think. And having it in you to get back into the trend trade was solid, dude. That was a good move. All right, let's see where we're at. Gerard. Put it up. Whoops. Hold on. Got jumpy fingers. Hold on. All right, here we go, Gerard. Tried to go long into a termination condition, and it didn't work. And man, I love that you tried to hide this one from me, but forgot that it was on your big chart. Directly into a termination condition, and you lost. There's a good lesson there, guys. Don't be afraid to show your losers. Trust me, I hid them forever, but I see everything. I've got cameras in everybody's offices. Quadruple divergence says, whoo, things might be changing. And then when they do change and everything rolls, you just take the perfect shot. So nice recovery. And one thing that I noticed, Gerard, guys, can you hear me? Give me a Y if you can hear me, please. Okay, so cool. And guys, if you ever can't hear me, post it in the room. And then when you see a bunch of Ys come in, it means that everyone else can, and it's probably you. I want you to see something real quick. This was Gerard, right? Yeah. So one of the awesome advantages that the Nexgen software gives is the idea of synthetic triggers, synthetic areas. So right here, Gerard, where those three divergences are, if you had your synthetics on, you would have noticed that it was right into an ugly spot. And the same is true from this one down here. You would have noticed that there was a fib right here. And I don't know how these get turned off on you guys, but when you look at a large chart, this is a great example. You're going to see three different fibs on your large chart. Let's see if we can walk you through it. So the ones that extend all the way into the great beyond, these are native. These are your 13.2 supports and resistance. The fat ones that seem to stop short, these are from a 21 chart. This is a higher time frame. And then these skinny ones are from your 5-1. And they're put on there, guys, because they're all important in the process. They're all important process. One is not more powerful than the other or better than the other, because if price reaches a line and the triggers remain above, it's a termination. So every time you guys look at a chart, you should see three different ones. These synthetics, you'll notice that it looks like the bar like they've stopped printing. These won't print until this bar is done. Don't get fooled into that. Cav gave me an awesome lesson on that once. So one thing you can do, Gerard, is right click and go to your data series and make sure that tick replay is activated on the large chart. And what that'll do is that'll pull those synthetics over from the other time frames. So give that a try and see if that works. That's if this isn't ticked, let's see if we can apply it real quick. Notice that all my synthetic areas are gone now, and then when I put it back on, it'll recalculate and I'll get those synthetics. So that's the first way to look and see if that fixes it. Let me know if that helps. But every line is important on the large chart. They are ticked. All right. I'm trying to think what to do next. You can right click and reload all historical data. That would be the next thing that I tried, and that'll recalculate everything. And then if for some reason that doesn't work, man, I always hate to admit this, but I'm not a tech guy. The only things I really know how to fix are the things that I've broken. It doesn't look like Jason has any tickets in tech support right now. Just, you can run to him real quick. If reloading historical data doesn't work. But that doesn't change the fact that this was a beautiful trade. Nicely done there. All right, GWC, I bet you this one has some momentum in it. Oh, maybe not. I love it. Always watch the large chart. It tells you everything. Large chart says we're going down with strength. GWC says, I'm going to get short. Gerard, there's your short. Beautiful. Pull back to the small triggers. And then there's the trend trade. GWC putting on a clinic today, man. Thank you. Great, great looks on your charts. And then Dawn. All right, guys, Discord isn't letting me open links. Give me 1 second. I have to do that silly little task manager thing. where I kill you all and then come back in. And I don't know why that reset does what it does. Usually you guys can hear me while I am still going. I'm going to share my screen again so you guys can see it. And come back to the room. And Don, now I got you. Strong triggers on the chart? Absolutely. We wouldn't want them anywhere else. Termination that reverses the market. Didn't reverse the market, Don. So let's do the annotation the way Gerard and I did earlier. Are you cool with that? I'm gonna do it anyway, but let's do it. Is it, Rob? So let's talk about where we're coming from, first and foremost. And it looks like there was a termination that reversed the market. So Don, we can call that a strong bottom. And this is important for the type of trade that you're taking. Is everybody comfortable with the idea about strong tops and bottoms? I did a video on it yesterday. If price reaches resistance and none of the triggers break, this is a termination condition. Whoops. This is a termination condition. When it reverses the market, it's a strong top. When price reaches support, triggers remain above, it's a termination condition. When it reverses the market, it becomes a strong bottom. And the strong top or bottom is the precursor to the highest probability trend trades that you can take. It sets you up for success in the other direction more often than not. So you're coming from a strong bottom. And that's a good thing, especially for the trade that you're taking. So we ask ourselves, how's my momentum, right? And the answer is, and you identified it beautifully, it's awesome. It's odds favorable momentum. And rule number 1 is met, right, Don? But then we ask ourselves about the clear path. Rule number 2. And do you notice how, let me see what your entry is. Your small triggers are through, but your large triggers are not. Don, did you recognize this? So for the clear path, what you have is 50% of your triggers are through, 50% are not. So it's not a clear path, but it has the potential to break because of the momentum, because of the strong bottom. Are you comfortable with that? And sometimes when you're new, you're going to get caught up in the moment and you will miss things. Guys, I do too. So let's go through. If you're trading the KISS plan, divergence is a killer. If you're trading the KISS plan, 2 divergences is definitely a killer. But let's go through the idea of the window of opportunity, right? Areas inside of triggers. Whoops, that's not going to let you see it. There's your highest point of support. There's your lowest point of support. So this box represents where if this area is going to break, this is where it's most likely to bounce. And you did. You took an entry from inside of the window, Don. So you're saying, with momentum, strong bottom, potential to break, I'm going to get into the window and I'm going to hope for the best. And I like it. I don't disagree with it. I think that you're in at a good spot. Everything says up. It has the potential. It's awesome. And then, Don, this right here, this second divergence, on a 50-50 trade. And this is why it's so important that you understand what kind of trade you're getting in. Because this second divergence, and this second divergence was true right here on this bar, this says, without question or hesitation, Don, get the hell out of this trade. And you might have gotten out break even instead of taking such a large loser. And I like the look, and I like where you're coming from, and I think the strength is outstanding, and your entry is right where the entry should be. But I think that understanding what type of trade you are in creates huge advantages for not being willing to give so much back when it starts to change. Does that make sense? And I say this every day that you have to know what kind of trade you're taking so you know how to manage it, because every trade is going to have a different style management. Every trade. No worries. So, did you walk through the rules for a high probability trend trade in your head? Because you identified strong triggers. You were proud of your strong triggers, Don, but you didn't make any mention of whether or not the path was clear. Does that make sense? And I know this because this is what I did, guys. When I really wanted to take a trade, I would just simply not annotate my chart with whatever should keep me out of the trade. And I don't think I did it consciously. And Don, I don't think you did it consciously. But this is one of the reasons why I tell you guys, every time you think you see a trade, every time you think it's time to get in, the best thing that you could ever do for yourself is start talking to yourself in terms of advantages. Do I have momentum? And Don, you crushed it. You had the best momentum ever. But then you have to ask yourself, do I have a clear path? And the only way to be successful with this concept, guys, the only way to understand whether or not your path is clear or not is you have to understand these three very simple concepts. You have to understand that if no triggers have gotten above any of the fibs, any of the lines on your chart, then it's 100% termination. Shouldn't be looking for that trade as a high probability trend trade. You have to understand that when the smalls break through but the large don't, Don, this was your look, that it does have the potential to break, but it's not a clear path, which means that it can't be a high probability trend trade. And then let me back up one more time and let me show you one of my favorite tools that I think everybody should make for their desktop. These are your three advantages. Don, you had momentum, and we got rid of the clear path because of the 50-50, and that's where a little bit of study, you'll never miss this one again because I'm being a colossal pain in your butt and nagging a little bit. So when the clear path goes away, your brain automatically says, let me make sure that everything else is awesome, right? And this is this simple process of speaking to yourself in terms of advantages every time you're looking to take a trade, it begins to pay huge dividends. Because your brain goes, hold it, this isn't a clear path. These areas aren't broken yet. I'm going to have to manage this trade a little more aggressively. Does that make sense? So when you go back to the KISS plan, and guys, I always go back to this KISS plan. So Don, here's your 50-50 trade. You had a good bottom, so that's a resounding yes. You had odds favorable. That was also awesome. But were your smalls outside of the large on the 5-1? They were. So you're 3 for 3 coming into this trade. And this right here says, don't take it if there's divergence. And I'm going to tell you right now, everybody in this room, if you're coming from a good top or bottom, you're going to learn to ignore that one. And you're going to learn to ignore this one. But the one thing that you probably won't ignore, and you'll alter your plan based on your study, is that two divergences on a 50-50 trade, more often than not, absolutely kills the trade. So Don, you'll still take the trade, you'll still take that great entry, you'll still know exactly what you're looking for, but you'll change your plan. You'll probably get paid right here at the divergence line, and you'll protect your profits in case a second divergence prints. Does that make sense, everybody? Understanding what sort of trade you're in is going to pay huge dividends to knowing how it needs to be managed. All right, Miss Jen. And I'm telling you guys right now, this classroom becomes a great classroom from these pictures that you guys post, because you're going to get the reinforcement over and over and over. All right, Jen, you do have odds favorable momentum. You have clear path until there. And we know that you just had like 38 divergences to the left of the screen. I will, Jonathan. As soon as I get to your chart, I will. I promise. You know I'm going to rip that thing apart. That's what I do. I feel comfortable with you now at this point, so we're good. So, Jim, I have to go with language. The English lit major in me has to go with language. If your large are up and if your synthetics are up and your large are down, are these favorable large triggers? Absolutely not. Right? That's an area inside of the small triggers. And it's just, this is me being nitpicky. But check it out. There is that pullback to the small triggers, which lines up with, and you had 5 divergences right here. You had a termination. The small triggers start to crank, and you take it beautifully. And this is just me being picky about the language, because favorable large triggers will always mean that your large and synthetic are one on top of each other. Jen, this is an outstanding, stellar, beautiful trade. And you get out of trouble. Everything about this makes me tingle, head to toe. I love it. And the only reason I use the language is because it goes back to what we talked about with Don. When you know what you're getting into. So Jen, when you know that these triggers are correction points, and you know without question that there is potential that it will go up to this other correction point, what it does is it has you thinking about maybe where your stop needs to go, and you're going to calculate how much am I willing to put on this trade. And for me, I'm not giving much more up beyond the fib. I'm willing to put something on it because of everything that's happened in the direction, but I'm not really doing it. And if I'm not comfortable with this, look, Jen, then right here is a full-blown momentum trade with almost the same entry on that snap back to the one-to-ones to take down there. So if you're uncomfortable with the gap, pause a little bit. And not even better management, just understanding the potential. And when you understand the potential because of the patterns, you will manage more effectively. It's just a byproduct of it. So great stuff. And in a termination and a loss of momentum, you said, you know what? I'm going to sit on my hands and do nothing. And I love that. And guys, take a page out of her book. When you recognize that your rules aren't met, take a picture and write what your best option is. And Jen, I've watched this keep more money in your account in the last 5 or 6 weeks. I've watched your annotation of when your rules aren't met keep you out of a lot of dicey trades. And I think that's amazing. And then Mr. Flowers, right? Termination. Big bounce, comes down, and your weak triggers into support, right? Weak triggers into support. And you say, you know what? I'm not jacking with it yet. So let's turn this into a lesson. If you were just convinced this was a short, you probably got in right here at the mid-band. And you didn't, but that's okay. That's it. You're breaking the momentum rule. Actually, that's probably your entry right there. Maybe you get stopped out. Maybe you don't. This second higher divergence says be patient, right? You're already at trouble. Second higher divergence. It says if we're really going down, let it roll. And that's exactly what you did. You're saying, let me get to the right side of everything. And can we change exit point to first exit? First potential exit is the problem. Right? So if you're going to take this trade, you're going to read your divergences. 2 divergences. Says wait for confirmation. There's your confirmation. This second higher divergence represents the first trouble spot. I'm taking half my contracts off here. If I get a re-entry, great. If I don't, no worries. And then it rides down. And the challenge with this one, Paul, is that you didn't know that this was going to end up being a strong trending market at that point. The only thing you were sure of is that it was weak and it was at a fib and that advantage is going away. And maybe you're a little frustrated that you didn't find something in between here and there. And this is where adherence to rules is big, right? This is where you really have to say to yourself, what are my rules? Do I know my rules? And this is just confirmation right from the area inside triggers. But this is to take a chance. Where's 90? I think this is closer down here. You're actually right here, Paul, not this circle. So this is where the market's already pushed down. And that is that tail. So at this point, it looks way better. And that's that little confirmation. Good stuff. And then Hamed, for divergences being broken, I use the same idea for areas. So on Paul's chart here, when the small and the large get below this divergence, it's out of the picture. It's gone in my mind. So the same rules for small and large get below the area is considered broken. Small and large get below the area is considered broken. Paul, it's a good read, and I like the patience. I just wanted to give some of the mechanics of what we're going into that, to where you'd have to be a little patient based on the divergences. You're welcome, Hamed. Mark as price and triggers through in both instances. By definitions, are they bad tops and bottoms? Let me go back to... Let me find it. There it is. All right, Jen. I'm going to give you guys this one for your spreadsheet. Consider a termination condition. Hold on. An area, a strong top or bottom. The initial, the triggers, both lines of the small must not break above or below, because the large follow, right? So here, one line of the small, but you see how the smalls couldn't break it at all? So it's a termination that none of the triggers can break through. So the language that I like, that I'm a huge fan of for making it easy, is a no triggers through termination that reverses the market. So let's take this and let's look at your picture. Small triggers broke through. Small triggers broke through. So Jen, you get to answer the question for me. Are these considered strong tops or bottoms? And remember, this is remedial. This is 101, guys. This is not overthinking it at all. This is trying to keep it so basic that we don't confuse ourselves with options. And because I'm running out of pictures, no, the answer is no, Jen, no. The answer is absolutely not. These are not strong tops or bottoms. But what about this one where none of the triggers broke through and it reversed the market? We could call that a strong top, couldn't we? No triggers through and it reverses the market. It hit both criteria. So let's go back to, this one. in order to consider an area strong top or bottom, the triggers, both lines of the small triggers, must not break above or below. So the second, and I'll draw a line real quick. Let me turn this into support. Right there. So there's our support. So here the small triggers break through, even though it reverses. Because the small triggers broke through, I'm not going to consider this a strong top or bottom. But here, because the triggers couldn't break through, and then it reverses, absolutely strong top. And this thing goes rock star all the way down until it hits the blue fib. None of the triggers break through. It reverses. This is a strong bottom. So the most important thing to remember is that it's no triggers through. And then it's the reversal. So just a termination condition, nothing more. And then it becomes a strong top or bottom once we get the reversal. Awesome. No, and I don't mean it's 101. I mean, this is me because, and let me show you what I meant by that. I don't want you to think that I'm giving you any grief or anything. Because this is not a strong top or bottom based on the large chart, right? Because the triggers got through. If you keep it very simple in the beginning, then it's hard to mess it up once you commit the language. That no triggers through. Once you commit the language, it's easy. But Jen, if I have this look and 3 divergences on the small chart, well then I may dismiss this as a little bit of overrun. And when I get down to this 50-50 here, I might say that it's a strong top. If there was that termination condition on the smaller, faster chart. So as you grow with the software, guys, you're going to create exceptions. And you're going to say stuff like, it was a little bit of overrun. Let me find the picture that did it here. There was a little bit of overrun here, Jen. But there were also 4 divergences in the exact same time frame on a smaller, faster chart that said, Jen, they probably just pushed a little bit beyond that area. Don't miss this trade. Does that make sense? But do you remember the confirmation that you got on the small chart? That this thing was dead and dying? And it sets you up for this. So you will create exceptions as you grow with the software. But what you have to do is you have to find those exceptions enough and take the pictures so that you can turn the exceptions into rules. And then, Paul, there's that strong trending market that we were talking about. And then, Jonathan, you had 2 trades here. Oh, Jen, my time is your time, 100%. I enjoy sharing it. All right, Jonathan, I took 2 trades looking to make quick, small money. Both won. The second one, I knew about the fib. I was thinking it would reach it. That was my initial exit. However, I closed and ran when I got up. All right, so let's see what we have. So, Jonathan, you're trying to take advantage of momentum, right? Pretty much. You're saying that when this chart gives me the best look ever, I'm going to try and snipe some stuff over here. Is that fair? Dig it. I like it. I'm not mad at you for that. Not even a little bit. And let me show you something. I love drawing pictures. Have you guys noticed that yet? I love drawing pictures. And Jonathan, let's just start with this over here. Awesome. Everything about this large chart, everything about this momentum is 32 flavors of kick-ass, Jonathan. That's a market that says, I triple dog dare you to try and slow me down. Love it. So what you took right here is the perfect momentum trade. Small trigger, oh, you didn't. You hit it a little early. That's my bad. But you're trading off of the one-to-ones, and that's a cool look, and I like this entry, and this is good. But what happens is as soon as you get to the wrong side of these triggers, this trade has failed. This momentum style trade is no longer a momentum style trade. So where's the pullback likely to go? Well, it's probably going to correct to the triggers, right? We know we're beginning to learn this lesson. We're beginning to think in terms of when the momentum slows, it's probably going to give me one of those pullbacks to the triggers. Does that make sense so far? That's what it looks like over here. This is what it looks like right here. We've seen a couple people capitalize on this. So Jonathan, what you're saying to yourself, and I'm telling you what I say in the moment, and you'll see it after, is because I'm not coming from a strong bottom, but I do have this momentum, if this trade fails, I'm going to wait for confirmation off of those small triggers. And that's where it is right there. So I don't know where your stop was, but it had to be freaking huge, because what if it pulled all the way down to here? So have a willingness to exit this one. And then it pulls back, confirms, and you get out of trouble. And I think that's beautiful. And then you don't do anything with all the momentum. And here you take the pullback to support inside of favorable large triggers, and you do it because there's no divergence. Everything is still screaming up. And your stop has to go on this one. Let's do your window. Here's your window. You nailed it. Your stop has to go out here so you're able to stay in the trade. I like this trade. I like what you did. I like the momentum, no divergence. This is screaming. And what it does is it's just giving a retest. And I guess you just got exhausted right here. You're like, whew, my nerves can't take anymore. I'm going to get the hell out of this trade. And Jonathan, you got out of that trade right when it got easy, right when you're on the winning side of the small triggers, right when you've already been confirmed off the bottom of the window. The large chart is still screaming to the upside. And this is what happens with the small chart. These fluctuations, I want you to see a couple things. This is still awesome. Everything on the large chart is still amazing. And on the small chart, what wore you out was the up and down of the ticks on the small chart. But here's the cool thing, Jonathan. Those ticks never broke the bottom of the window. Ever. Ever. And this is why if you watch that small chart, guys, it'll wear you out. It's like a dog on a walk that sniffs every 8 feet. You can walk the dog a half a mile and it's wrecked by the time you get home from all of the action going in there. So, Jonathan, great trade, top of the window. The fluctuations wore you out and you jump ship. That's all that to say that, right? So, guys, when you get into the trade, understand the window, right? Understand the advantages. Be willing to sit through some of that nonsense. We saw it yesterday, too. I was being kind of silly as I called out the prices as they fluctuated in such a nice trade. So, Jonathan, nice job on that one. Yeah, Paul, essentially, let the large chart lead the way. But not just that. Don't have blind faith in the large chart, Paul. Right? Don't just have blind faith. You're looking for change over here. The small chart will tell you if things are changing. But I think that the point that I really wanted to make here is that if this is the window of opportunity for more up, despite this market going down, up, it never left that point where we expected it to continue from, right, Paul? So in order to be able to sit through this, you have to be able to define the window of opportunity. And you shouldn't even be defining it until you've got advantages here, which means that your brain will eventually say, I'm still in the win zone. I'm still in the high advantage zone. All of these fluctuations mean squat to me. They're going to have to come get me. Large chart has you looking for an entry. The words that you use to define your entry let you know when the advantage is gone. Good stuff. And then the squiggly dotted outside lines on the small chart. Squiggly dotted outside lines on the small chart. Tang, are you with me in here? All right, I'm going to do two things. The first thing is I'm going to remind you, Tang, this is why asking questions in picture form is so much easier. Because I don't know which squiggly lines you're talking about. Squiggly and dotted. So where I see dashes, you may see dots. So let's do this. And this is a pain in the butt, but I did this yesterday. This works. Are you talking about these lines? Cool. Those are your synthetic triggers. The ones that have little steps on them, these are actually the large triggers from the large chart. These squiggly dotted lines, as you call them, I love that. So let me give you a little roadmap here. The stepped lines are the synthetic, which means from a different time frame, triggers. These are get back there, are the large triggers from the large chart. Let me push this up so you can see it. And then the smooth are the large triggers from the small chart. So these work together. Oh, Jonathan, have a good one. These work together to help us define entries, Tang, by having areas inside of favorable large charts. But those are the two different ones. They're both large triggers. They're just from different time frames. And they work together on the small chart to create our entry areas via rule number 3. So when they trend one on top of the other, we look for areas inside to take that highest probability trend trade. Awesome. Great question. Thanks for asking that one. Telling you guys, for everything, there's somebody that needs to hear that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And this was Dave 888. Let's see what happened, Dave 888. Termination condition, Fibonacci support, higher divergence. Fibs roll at support. I love it. You take your entry, you get paid. And you got stopped out with a trailing stop. And then you went long, jumping in, and got out of trouble. And I would agree, your trailing stop is a little close, Dave. You don't give it any room to breathe at all. And Dave 888, if you're in here, and I'm not even going to go to all the other charts that you have, but if I'm looking to hold a trade, right? Doesn't that mid-band inside of favorable large triggers represent the best of the best spot for a bounce with all those advantages that you had on the large chart? Your stop has to go below those triggers if you're looking to hold for bigger moves. Otherwise, you're just chumming the water. And Dave 808888, one of the things that people do is the second you're in a trade, all of your chart reading goes out the window and you're looking at numbers. I'm not willing to give back $20. I'm not willing to give back $40, or I'm only willing to risk $20 or $30 regardless of where the market may come back to, regardless of where that bounce may happen. And you will get to the point, if this is your handicap, I don't know if you're live or sim, it's none of my business, where you have to practice holding trades based on the large chart and using areas where the market shouldn't go for stop placement on the small chart. You have to practice that. You have to build a commitment to having a rock solid plan of where you'll put your stops. Because even a break even stop here puts you in a great spot, and you're able to hold all the way up. And with the smalls outside of the large and the bars outside of the small, it would take even a reversal bar is a better option there. And this is coming off a termination. And this is coming off a termination. And that's coming off a termination condition. And that was just an HVA trade. So yeah, just practice it a little bit. Write down on a piece of paper what it's going to take to get you out. Write down on a piece of paper where your stops belong, because your chart reading is freaking outstanding. And you did such a great job with this one. And just that little blip, I mean, you got right back in, but that's $50 for your pocket. Great job though. I like it. Oh, just practice. So Dave, go back and do market replay today. And on that exact same trade, hold it. And talk to yourself about all the advantages you have and why you're willing to leave that risk on the trade. The same way you're willing to leave risk on a trade when you take a high probability trend trade, because you know that when it's still inside, where's Jonathan's great example? When you're still inside that window of opportunity, hell, there's no reason to jump ship. So you'll get there. You just have to practice a little bit. Your trade was awesome. So just a little bit of practice. This was Morgan. And Morgan, first and foremost, thanks for the picture, brother. Thank you so much. This is so much easier. Made a mistake taking this trade because you made the assumption it was going to continue down without thinking of the rules. Opinions and assholes, right, Morgan? So you put 50-50 met with divergences. Are you in here, Morgan? Is small triggers aren't through, large triggers aren't through. Can we agree that that's a termination condition and not a 50-50? So this is a termination condition. These divergences say, dude, don't do it, right? It's rare that you're going to see a 50-50 trade with weak triggers and two divergences that I'll ever get excited about taking. The fact that this went down is absolute freak of nature, strong trending market. And then we get down here and we have weak triggers, right? And we don't have divergence, but we have weak triggers. And we have no areas inside of favorable large triggers. And you got so married to the idea that this market was going to hit the next fib that you forgot your rules. Man, welcome to the human race. We're all going to do that. The fact that you annotated this, waited for the pullback to the mid-band, right down outside of favorable large triggers. The fact that you came back and annotated and saw your mistakes and walked through it and worked through it and talked through it is going to make it easier to not make those mistakes next time. So great job on that. And then Cindy jumped in, right? You said, bad top, mid-band holds, odds favorable. I'm going to jump into this thing. I'm going to let it get above the resistance and I'm jumping. There's no reason for a trade there other than you're just jumping in with momentum. Would you agree? Of course you would agree, because that's what it is. There's nothing wrong with that. And then, oh my gosh, this is the lesson that, Cindy, just virtual high five for you today. If the momentum fails and the large chart still says we're going up, whoops. Cindy says, I am so comfortable and confident in the window of opportunity that I know exactly where my stop goes, where the market shouldn't. Momentum trades that die when the rules are met turn into trend trades. And you just turned it into a trend trade. You were right into a termination condition, 100%. 100% into a termination condition. But you were 100% into a termination condition, Cindy, after a bad top made it all the way to the mid-band. The mid-band behaved as a termination condition. Everything started to roll, and every one of your charts agreed with more up. And this termination condition is what created just enough indecision to push it back to the perfect entry. So a little patience here sets you up for a better entry with lower risk and way more profit. Does that make sense? And I don't disagree with this, but get in here, be willing to jump ship when it doesn't work, right? Be willing to get out with that loss of momentum. You're so stinking good at this, Cindy, that you're going to nail that trend trade if it happens, or you're going to nail that momentum style trade here if it happens. So nice work. And great hold. That's a tough hold. That hold makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm not that good at it. But some people can do it. And then Morgan, you posted, you think your ultimate problem here is that you're pretty bad at locating where to put your stops and take profits. That's something that you'll work on next. You had to get ready for work. Hey, have a great day. And then Morgan, I gotta tell you, it has nothing to do with putting your stops in the right place. It has everything to do with taking the correct trades. Because if you're in areas floating in the middle of nowhere without momentum, hell, the only place where your stop might be safe is way up here, right? You're just hoping that all this shit holds. So, pardon my French. And guys, that's a wrap. Holy crap. Guys, it's